have everybody in their seats? Okay, thank you. First, I'd like to welcome everyone. I know it's a bit early, but we have a long day. Also, today we have the DA, the district courts, the library, Coast, Stark, Coroner, and the sheriff's office related to the jail. That's what we hope to do today. And now I'm going to go to Mary. I think you have the presentation ready.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, good morning, everybody. Because we have so many different things to talk about today and with different organizations, I just tried to give us a little bit of organization and how we're going to talk about everything. In front of you, the council, you have a printout of this PowerPoint presentation in case y'all want to take notes, but it's what they have in front of them is the same as what's on the screen. I want to remind y'all that the council has not received the budget packet yet. That is going to be at the October council meeting. And a lot of people ask me, well, why are we having budget meetings? And there was kind of a method to my madness and starting so early. It's just that last year it seemed so tight and it was so congested. Everyone didn't have a really chance to digest all the information as we went through it. So we decided to start a little early this year. So what's going to be presented today from these organizations is what they submitted to finance to build the budget off of. I'm not saying any of these numbers are what's going to be approved or what's in the final budget, but this is what was given as the needs of each organization. So I just want to make sure that's clear. You guys have also a manila folder in front of you, those of you who haven't received it already. As you know, there's several organizations that do get funding through parish government. That's a more comprehensive list. We don't do budget hearings for each and every one of them. But in case y'all have any questions about those other organizations who submitted budgets and amounts to us, they're there. Really quickly, before we begin, if Ms. Tanner, if you don't mind, if I'll start on the introduction. Obviously, councilmen, staff, y'all know this information, but I just thought it was good to give everyone in the public and everywhere kind of some context about the budget and about these agencies and how they're funded through parish government. So just give me a few minutes and I promise I'll do it as quickly as possible. So when we talk about parish government, we talk about big G and little g, and really what we're talking about is how the voters are voting and they vote different elected officials in for separate offices. Way back when I used to work in the president's office, it was interesting the phone calls you would get, or I still see the public records requests we get, that people think parish government or the council or the parish president are over the sheriff's office or the assessor's office. We're completely separate entities. And I think it's important to understand that, to understand how we are individual agencies that work together in unison. And on that note, some of those agencies are funded or funds flow through parish government, or there's some state mandates. So on your screen now, these are different entities that parish government actually pays for and funds. The ones in orange are the ones we're going to see today. And when we talk about these funds, I can't help but mention, and I think we have to continue mentioning, we've been talking about it since 2018, the loss in revenue. I don't think a lot of times the public is aware, really, the loss in revenue that we've seen over the past several years. And thankfully, through our work through these other agencies and through a lot of hard work of our finance team, we've been able to address those. But if you look on this chart, this is when the Jail and Justice Center in 2018 expired, and the loss of revenue year over year without having that. And I think if I'm correct, it's about $30 million we're looking at our deficit in the general fund, and we estimate that would have brought in about $36 million. So you see kind of that relation with each other. I also just want to mention the coroner's office, because their millage has expired and they are a state mandated agency. So very soon, I should say very soon, but when they run out of their fund balance, this is going to be another state mandated cost that will not have a dedicated funding source, so it would go on to the general fund. As y'all know, we have a lot of our state mandates come out of our general fund. The only organizations we're talking about today that have dedicated funding sources are the library, Coast, and Stark. Everyone else, they're coming out of this general fund. So I just want to show everyone. So as you can see, the overwhelming majority of those costs in the general fund are going to state mandates. There is some that go to administrative departments, a little bit, tiny bit in facilities that don't have those accounts, and then some other operations that we do. So how of all these years, how has parish government been able to keep services going? Number one, we've reduced some fund balances in our cash flow. This puts a strain. I know every time we reduce it, it gets harder and harder on our finance group to make sure they have enough cash flow to make sure we're able to pay those bills on time. We've also deferred a lot of projects in our facilities, which one day we are going to have to address that. That's going to catch up with us with our air conditioning units, roofs and all those things. Thankfully, we've had some American Rescue Act funds and interest, as well as Deepwater Horizon. But I want to mention, those kind of disaster one-time funding is not how you have sustainable financial health in our parish government. Relying on these disasters and these special funds is not a way we can build this strong parish government all working together. And that's it.
Okay. We're going to start first with the criminal court fund. Annie, do you want to?
Sure, I can give you some information about the criminal court fund. So, St. Tammany Parish government, like many parish governments across the state, acts as like a banker. This is considered a custodial fund, and we have 4 custodial funds that we keep on behalf of the court system, and the criminal court fund is by far the largest one that we have, and in accordance with the revised statutes, we hold this fund on behalf of the judges in the district attorney's office, and this fund collects fines and forfeitures, and it's used on behalf of the criminal court system to defray the costs of the criminal court activities. And so that includes things, you can go ahead and move to the next slide. You can see that the revenue sources include, the biggest thing is court fines, then court costs, asset forfeitures, and bond forfeitures. Over time, it's some of those fines and court costs have come down. That's you can see that that's around the $1.2 million range is what's being requested or budgeted for 2026. Like I said, the biggest thing is court fines in the $800,000 range, court costs at about $160,000, and the asset and bond forfeitures really depends on the timing of when those cash flows come in. Next slide.
Okay, and let me say something here. The criminal court fund, the parish does not have any say over it. It takes a motion by the judge and the DA, and if it's a legal expense, we pay it.
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Now, this used to be called a trust fund because we had no control over it. Now they've changed it. I think you have it under special revenue?
Yes.
Okay, so they did away with all the trust funds. It would not be considered a trust fund?
That is correct. They're not a trust fund.
Okay. All right, continue. Thank you.
Yes. So you can see on the next slide the categories of expenses that they use it on. So just like Ms. Tanner said, they submit to us the 22nd JDC and the district attorney's office submit to us a motion and order that's signed off on by both parties to pay for certain expenditures of the criminal court system. This includes things such as court reporters, interpreters, sanity hearings, jury meals. It's anything, like Ms. Tanner said, that's a legal cost of the criminal court system, and it's eligible to be paid from those funds. We act as a banker. Basically, we take in the funds and then we pay for those bills based on the motion and order of those agencies.
Mr. Corbett?
Annie, on the previous chart, oops, sorry, there we go. On the previous chart, I had a question. What's driven the almost 35% reduction in court fines, for example, between 2019 and the 2026 budget? The other one's court costs has gone down too. It's not insignificant, but it's not as big of a player. Do you have any idea?
Some of that is related, I think, to the fact that in the state, it's they're not being charged as much, I think. But I think that the DA's office and the judges could speak more to the to that question.
I know it went down during COVID.
Yeah, during COVID, it never came back. You're talking about at different points in different years, 10,000 fewer tickets being written. And you start looking at those types of things that all these different agencies, from the public defender's office to the DA's office, the court, there's a whole list of agencies that share in those funds that the court collects and then distributes. Then other fees and fines just never came back to the levels they once were pre-COVID.
Okay, so it's one maybe distribution and how it gets distributed out, but is what I heard you say.
Collections.
Well, the collections come in, but then who that collections has to go to, or is it shared by?
That's always been the same.
It's always been the
It's
same?
always been the same. So that hasn't changed. It's just, so as an example, in some years, when 10,000 tickets were fewer being written, just as an example, one line item is public defender's office gets $45 per ticket.
Okay.
That's $450,000 less annually to the public defender's office.
Got it, okay.
Just something small like that.
We have a lot better drivers nowadays, is what you're telling me.
Well, no.
On the fines side, on all the fines, the sheriff gets 12%, the DA gets 12%, the criminal court fund gets the rest.
Right, okay.
So that's on every fine, okay? On the cost side, the only thing that the criminal court fund gets, the cost side is the smaller side. The criminal court fund doesn't get that much, and that's by statute.
Okay.
So that's why that's so small. And it just goes with how much the activity is in the court.
Okay. So Colin, if I just to paraphrase, part of this would be due to changing in policing strategies in terms of writing tickets, or
I don't know about writing. I can't tell you about the strategy. I hate to pass the buck down. That'd be the question for the sheriff's office,
right.
But it's all agencies. It's not just the sheriff's office.
Okay.
I think there was, and I'm kind of opining, priorities shifted a little bit in enforcement, less traffic maybe.
Sure.
And even having conversations with certain agencies, they just never got out of that mode.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Bender. Sorry.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Chairman. So I just want to say in general, and see if my colleagues are noticing the same thing. And I realize we can't put a city police officer or a sheriff's deputy at every street corner. But I've noticed, I would say in the last 4 or 5 years, I've never seen worse drivers in my entire life. I see so many people running stop signs. I'm talking about not coming to a rolling stop. They just go right through the stop sign. I mean, they look, if there's nobody coming to the four-way stop, boom, right through it, okay? Speeding, big issue. So I don't know if there's an opportunity for more funding, and like you say, that would be up to the sheriffs and the city police. But is anybody else seeing a decline in the people following, rules of the road?
Mr. Kugel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Chairwoman, I'm sorry. One of the things, I know that I'm working with the administration, the traffic calming measures, I think there's going to be 3 this year. 2 in my district and 1 in Kathy's district. I mean, that's one of the ways I look at the way to deal with this, especially in residential areas where there's no sidewalks, where for me, I'm more focused on pedestrians because there's nowhere for them to walk. Mm-hmm. So I think by the end of this year, at least in my district, we are going to have some traffic calming measures, including speed tables, and I think Kathy's as well. So that's one way to approach it. Because what was being done before is they're having to pay the sheriff's deputy to just sit out there and wait for people to speed.
Yeah, I got
Which,
you.
when you do that, of course, you're taking them away from maybe a more useful task somewhere else. But
Yeah.
I think traffic calming measures is a great way to approach that. And I appreciate there was some funding this year for that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Smith?
With all due respect, those are concerning issues, but let's stay focused on this budget as opposed to traffic tickets, et cetera, please. We may never get through this. Thank you.
Continue, Annie. Do you-
Yes, so if you go to the very last slide in this section, you'll just see the highlights of what the total revenues and expenditures were over the past several years, as well as the fund balance. And you can see that there's been a declining fund balance in the criminal court fund. And, that's also due to the fact that the judges and the district attorney's office have been spending the funds that they've had on hand to be able to cover the expenditures they have as a result of the declining available funds that we have in the general fund for their needs.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move to the district attorney's office. I'd like to welcome the district attorney's office. We're going to discuss the criminal, which is state mandated, and civil, which is cost allocated. And we know there will be cuts this year in the state mandated funds. Thank y'all for being here and working with the parish regarding the financial limits. Okay. Annie, you want to take the first one, or Mary?
I can do it, yeah.
Okay.
On this first slide, it gives y'all just kind of an overview of the DA's overall budget and their request. So there's about $6.5 million total from the criminal fund, civil $2.1 million, and then the criminal court fund, what we just talked about, which is completely separate than that ask, is $715,000 approximately. They have it broken down by salaries and benefits and then operational costs. So as you can see, the majority of what the DA's office is asking for is salaries and benefits.
Okay, and as I see this, I think you have 11 vacancies that you have not filled. Is that correct?
Well, it depends on the day you ask.
Okay,
I think we're at 12 right now.
all right. And
Those are we're
Actually,
holding.
13, somebody.
I'm sorry,
somebody
13.
resigned.
Somebody else.
13, and you're holding them for,
I'm holding them to affect our cash burn rate. So I don't know if you want me to jump into this.
go ahead.
Okay, so I think on here, there's a question somewhere in the packet about what can we do to affect our expenses and save money and things of that nature. Everyone knows, man, going back to when I was criminal chief in 2018, every year there seems to be the continuing narrative of, we don't think we'll have the money to pay for your agency next year. When that first happened, I think when the DA's office emerged out of COVID, we had double the cases pending trial in the felony division, and we came out of COVID with double the cases pending trial and a budget cut. We were cut. Mr. Montgomery filed a lawsuit. Ultimately, that lawsuit was settled. At that point, we had pretty much zero reserve balance. Correct me if I start saying things from a timing standpoint. Jennifer knows way more than me generally. But we saved that money at that point, knowing that, okay, is this going to be a repetitive thing? Because we observed the same things. The general fund cannot meet all of its mandated obligations. And so every year, we'd made a decision in the office to not fully staff to budget and always get into a situation where we're going to try to save money. So we sat down a couple years ago and were advised that we were going to take, so we have this year, and I appreciate you guys sitting down with us earlier this year, we've been told to expect a 30% cut from what we received last year from the parish. The year before that, we sat down in a meeting and we were told it was going to be 55% cut from that previous year's receipts. So we're in this perpetual position having no confidence that we can actually spend the money that we're receiving for fear of, I would be negligent to recruit someone to come work for us just to turn around and fire them. Similarly, I have to maintain a certain salary level to be competitive with our neighbors. Most people who come to work for us now are already taking pay cuts if they leave Orleans and Jefferson. Luckily, because what we have in St. Tammany is appealing in general to want to live here. But for that, if we were just competing with salaries and dollars, I couldn't compete now. So I hold these positions, and I'm holding them so that I can affect my cash burn rate, expecting a 30% cut from receipts last year. I think knocking us down to I think we received about 6.28 million this past year in parish funding, and that would reduce us to 4.9 million received from the parish. So based upon that figure, we did some calculations in the office to figure out, based upon our staffing level, withholding these vacancies, we'll begin to eat into our reserve balance by between $400,000 and $500,000 per year, just surviving with the 13 to 14 vacancies that we're holding. And the only reason why we're not eating into our reserve balance at a higher rate is for 2 years, we have strategically placed people in partnership with DEA and state police, meaning I share in their asset forfeiture seizures. So right now, I've got drug money that was seized in federal cases paying for our car fleet, Westlaw, and Clear services, which equates to another approximate $200,000 in expenses annually. When that runs out, we'll be eating into our reserve balance to the tune of about $600,000 a year. Then you get to, we had opioid settlement funds, which I'm greatly appreciative of y'all's partnership in investing in our office to fight this pandemic. But that's not to supplant what we have, that's to expand our capabilities. And through those expanded capabilities, not only your investment of now, you've raised it to approximately, correct me if I'm wrong, but $215,000 annually to that number, and Washington Parish is investing in the same, about $100,000 annually. But those things are for a mission-specific thing. It can't come back into the office and supplant and help us exist the way we're existing now. Just to touch on, in examining the fruits of that investment, you guys have seen press releases and conferences of the 500,000 plus seizures of fentanyl pills. But I want to mention, and I don't have the numbers for St. Tammany, I'm getting them year to date. I usually wait to the end of the year. But I attended a function in Washington Parish last week. And last year, Washington Parish had 41 overdose deaths last year. Year to date, that's down to 16. So your investment, I think, is paying off in the initiative to be very proactive. I'll have the numbers in St. Tammany. They were down slightly from the year before. I expect them to be down as well at the end of this year. So those things are helpful. But the only reason why we don't run out of money almost immediately is because of your opioid investment. If we're going to maintain what we're executing now, opioid settlement funds, federal asset forfeiture dollars, and the fact that we're holding 14 positions and not affecting our cash burn rate. I can't do that forever. And it's going to hurt me very soon. Several of the ADAs in the office, you're going to have 3 to 2 or 3, depending on the law change, judicial vacancies coming up. Several people in my office will leave maybe to run for those positions, or others leave because they have to go make money. And if you work for the DA's office for 10 years, your student loans are forgiven, and you vest in the retirement system. So every year there's a percentage of ADAs that leave after they meet that benchmark. In addition to want to go make more money, you can understand that. It's very difficult at times being a public servant, and you want to go make money. It's expensive to live for everyone. But when you leave, I can no longer afford to have a training ground of people that I am regularly training at this point to take this position when a percentage of these 10-year experienced litigators become more marketable and go out into the workplace. I can no longer hire anyone down here that I'm perpetually training to take over one day. I am in a position of emergency every time someone leaves to go try to recruit someone who already has litigation experience and can handle a docket of a couple hundred defendants pending trial for some of the most heinous felonies that you can imagine. And we are in this position because we can't fund our system. After you reduce my budget this year by 30% of parish funding, I will have 3 times less funding than Orleans and Jefferson Parish to fund our district attorney's office. They will be investing 3 times more than the citizens of St. Tammany Parish in their criminal justice system in their DA's office, criminal department only. That's an apples to apples comparison with Orleans and Jefferson because they don't handle civil and you budget out our civil separately. So when looking at just our criminal budget, it is a direct comparable. 3 times more of an investment will be spent in those parishes than here. Just since I've been criminal chief, when Mr. Montgomery first became DA, we are charging 2 additional criminal divisions worth of cases per year with felony grade violations with 0 additional investment. If the reduction in St. Tammany weren't bad enough, the state of Louisiana hasn't added an additional warrant to the DA's office in this judicial district in 18 years, if I'm doing my math right, since 2006 or 2008. At that time, they added 17. They've not added 1. And a warrant, for anyone who doesn't know, we have 30 warrants for both parishes combined for the entire judicial district. Each warrant is worth $50,000 worth of funding from the state of Louisiana. We haven't added one to this parish in 18 years. So if 30 warrants were good 18 years ago, someone would think the way the parish looks now, certainly that should have ticked up, which means this parish is disproportionately being asked to fund a larger percentage of this DA's office than other DA's offices throughout the state that have a commiserate population and a commiserate caseload. There are not many DA's offices that have the caseload the size we are. We are the 4th largest judicial district. And if anyone attended the opening of court the other day when Judge Zollbrecker gave his speech, we lead the state in real filings. There was a recent post on number of cases filed in the different judicial districts. Criminal matters filed, non-traffic, we were approximately 8,100. Orleans was 40-something hundred. Now, they have a larger percentage of those cases are felonies because they have a separate city court that handles a lot of the misdemeanors through ordinance violations. But we too have 2 city courts that we also staff and maintain on the same budget. We maintain Bogalusa City Court and we maintain violations in Slidell City Court in addition to Franklinton and Covington. So we are spread out. Now, I think we do a lot with a little. So at no point in time am I telling you that I need those parishes' budgets. What you have funded us for 2025 is the budget we need. And we had a great conversation, I think about a year ago, and we all sat down, we examined, not only have we examined the DA's budget, but myself and Jennifer have testified about it under oath through cross-examination when we were in litigation over the budget. So we have not only testified under oath through discovery process, a very, so you had a very thorough examination of everything that we do. We then met later with several of you and went over staffing, the things that we want to do, our priorities, and we went through all that in great detail, similarly to how we're doing now in a little bit lesser degree. When we met, we all agreed through that process, signed by President Cooper, Judge Burris, Judge Zollbrecker, Councilman Arthur Laughlin, Councilman Joe Impastato, Councilman Jeffrey Corbin, and myself, that the 2025 budget reflected the reasonable and necessary expenses of the district attorney's office. And I understand the cut that we're going to take. I have, just like you, I've spent a lot of time looking at the general fund and what it can and cannot pay. Now, I'm not giving anybody an out, but I understand it. And we are in a dedicated fund taxing corner. That general fund, I think, has about $15.6 million coming into it annually. That fund, let's assume the coroner's office runs out of money in 2027, has to pay for the district attorney, 6.2, 6.3, the judiciary, 3.2, the Justice Center, anyone? Was that 4.7? 4.7. The jail, I think that's around 7-something million. And what will be the coroner's office, about 8 million a year. If you do that math, you have more than twice as much in obligations than what you have revenue coming into that general fund. And I challenge everyone that this is the time to dig in, see how we can begin to restructure the tax structure in this parish, spend the people's money more efficiently, because what the public has told us is they're taxed out, they do not and will not give this parish any more money because they are the second highest taxed parish by median tax rate in the state of Louisiana. So they're not going to give us more money. So if we conclude that, the next question is, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to sit here every single year and say, man, none of us want to, but we can't do anything about it and have it? Now, good news. I think we all realize that. And I am grateful of the efforts by parish president and the council and the business community to begin to come together to find solutions to these problems. And I think creatively and collectively, all together, I think we're going to find very good solutions for the citizens of this parish together, as long as we're together, and give them some relief. And I'm confident in our ability to do that. I'm confident in y'all's ability to do that. And I'm grateful and appreciative, even though I know we're getting cut. I know you guys are working exceptionally hard to be problem solvers and to help fix these problems. And so that is where we are in a very long-winded way.
Thank you for that short speech. I
Always.
appreciate it. Mr. Impostata, you had a question?
Couple of quick questions. The 13 or 14 positions that are not funded, that
Yes,
you
sir.
haven't filled, can you briefly explain what they are?
Yes, 3 to 4 of them are ADA positions, felony, misdemeanor, and then a combination of a hybrid, which would be misdemeanor, juvenile, or DV. But those are those junior level training positions where you should be a little bit more experienced than the regular misdemeanor guy coming in. You're sitting second seat in these cases, ready to take over a division when you're ready to go. The other ones are learning those other areas, non-support, juvenile, domestic violence. Again, also taking their opportunities to learn and get to those areas. So those 3 ADA positions are in that. Also, a sex crimes prosecutor in anticipation of someone else moving into another area. 2 investigators, 1 for sex crimes, 1 for misdemeanors. Intake secretary, DV secretary, misdemeanor and traffic secretary, screening secretary, general reception, diversion supervisor, communications department as well.
Okay, but
So-
when you talk about those starter positions, right, for your future, they're essential.
Yes.
Because you have it sounds like a 10-year window for an ADA to work typically at a district attorney's office.
Yeah, well, there's a percentage that are going to leave, right? There's a percentage that come here that I want to get this litigation experience and make myself more marketable in the world, have my student loans forgiven, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with
Sure.
that. There's a percentage of people that say, I am emotionally in this for the long haul. I am dedicated to this. This is my passion. I'm never going to leave. Now, I have to be able to feed my family, but this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Right.
So you have those people that are always going to be there. Then you're going to have these guys that naturally, and we wish them the best of luck, they're going to take this experience. And Warren used to say, and it was a good thing, that he likes being able to train who are going to be good citizens to go out into the world and maybe be a parish councilman, or go be a parish president one day, or go be a judge one day, or serve in some other capacity, but you got a good foundation here. So we know that there's a percentage of people that are going to do that as well.
Okay, thank you. And the other question I had, the warrants, is there not some formula that the state uses to decide what parishes get warrants?
Yeah,
based
generally,
on crime
there's
rate or?
there's a mechanism in the code where there's a committee that meets. So some years ago, we were told there was a surplus of money in the state, and we were told, get your numbers together, you guys will qualify. And like everything else, there's the formula, and then there's politics. And we lost the politics. I think what happens is that people in the state look at this parish and say, they'll be okay. You know, we run a good parish. We have, I think, the best place to live in the state. And it's kind of one of those things, you're held hostage to your own success. The longer we continue to do well, the more we keep demonstrating we don't need. And you can either fail or continue to figure it out. And we always continue to figure it out. So what happened was, when I asked, show me the formula that was used, I was told, have your boss call. So, but I do know this. I do know that myself, DA now here, Hiller Moore, DA's office in Lafayette and Tangipahoa are going to be pushing very hard because of certain things that have happened in our respective districts, to make sure that that warrant allocation is ramped up more appropriately where it should be. We're going to be asking to move that from 30 to 45. Maybe we get lucky and we make that 30 becomes 40. That'll be less of a burden that you guys have, but I can't guarantee that. The next regular session is 10 months away. So we've already started meeting with our North Shore delegation. They're in support of it. So those things are advanced. I already have the numbers and data that will be supportive of it to submit, so that's ready to go.
That sounds great. It must be justified. In 18 years, we've certainly had substantial growth in St. Tammany Parish. If there's something this council needs to do to help with that, please let us know.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Phillips?
I had the same question on the warrants, and you'd have to have 1.5 number of warrants for those number of people just to pay their salary, I'm thinking. Like if it's 13 people, you'd need 13 warrants and another 50% of that to cover their salary on it, right?
Yes, sir. So the rules have changed now. So when we do get more warrants, we now have the ability to be able to stack them. And so a long time ago, only Orleans Parish had the ability to stack warrants. Nobody else in the state could do it up until a year or two ago. So if we actually receive more warrants and we're efficient with how we do our hires, then we can actually have the opportunity to relieve the parish more of the obligation for the salary.
And being
By stacking.
this is state mandated cost to us.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the delegation is going to be what, more aggressive, or
Yes.
I mean, what's the difference between before and now?
I think your North Shore delegation is exceptionally well organized. They are together, and I think they've been recognized in the state of being a very organized and collective force. And it won't just be us. So us and East Baton Rouge, because of what happened with St. George, I think is what it's called. So none of the municipalities contribute to the budget of the district attorney's office, okay? And nor have they in anywhere else. What's interesting in East Baton Rouge, you just watched a large portion of your, quote, parish population, or city, however way they were organized, now become a separate municipality. And so that funding there is in jeopardy. So there's going to be a lot of attention, I think, paid on proper funding for DA's offices, what state mandated expenses are, and the ability to get more warrants to these areas that desperately need them.
Ms. Seiden?
I just want to reiterate what Joe said. However we can help facilitate warrants and work with the delegation, just let us know, please. But I just know I have a business, and if I had 12 or 13 vacancies, how are you guys absorbing that workload?
Well,
And what
as
is
an
it doing?
example, I mean, I had someone just resign today because she can go make more money in the restaurant business. This lady is in a position of people's social security numbers, Bank Secrecy Act information, financials, and she can go make more money in the restaurant business. And we're placing her in a large position of trust, not only for discovery purposes. All the attorney's law licenses are on the line because we have to make sure that everything is produced, and it's complete, that things are missing end up being things not given, and the lawyers are deemed to know everything, not only what we have, but everything law enforcement has. So compensating those people appropriately at the support staff level is critical, and we're not the only office that's had these problems. I remember Jefferson Parish did a presentation showing how these same people can make more money at Starbucks, Home Goods, I'm trying to think of the other comparable, and we're losing them. And I don't have 3 times the funding. And so we collapsed the other day? We collapsed victim witness and misdemeanor position. So now I've got a victim witness person who's also responsible in domestic violence for doing discovery for, what, 500 cases? And so it's just ripe for error, failure, delay, and you got these guys that are putting their law licenses on the line. And not to belabor the point, but I had an attorney that in his 50s had to spent $45,000 fighting for his law license of a decision he made when he was 27 years old of something that he handed over and it wasn't tabbed correctly. So if you think about the pressure on these guys that are already going to come make less money to come work for us, we got to marry them up with the right support personnel. And that's just not happening.
Well, we appreciate everything you guys do. We really do. Hope
And
you
if
can
I could
help
be
us out.
real quick for the record, and for you guys to at least confirm for the public, I'm not asking, I mean, other than, I know I'm asking for a general increase here because we talked about, our expenses have gone up, and I'm going to touch on a couple of those things. But is it fair that we're not asking you guys for more money? Am I basically asking you guys for status quo with this slight increase? Yes? Yes. Okay. Is any of this, what we talk about in the public, is any of this asking the public for more money for the judges or the DA? Or are we trying to maintain status quo? Status quo. Let's just be clear that we're not asking for more money from anyone, and nor have we. And so at all points in time where we sit here and we're trying to maintain what we have, we just don't want to go the opposite way. And so even though I know I'm asking for, what, $200,000 more? And I know I'm not going to get it. If I could have what I had last year, we'd be just fine. And we'd be able to make it. There's some things that I want to bring to your attention of what is also expense realities. When 10 years ago, when Mr. Montgomery first became DA and to now, we used to have a 0% contribution to the Louisiana District Attorney's retirement system. Now we have a mandated 12.25% contribution. We have no control over that. So that is will be a $582,000 additional expense that we didn't have 10 years ago. Healthcare. Our healthcare over the last 4 years? 4 years has now gone up $1 million a year. Vehicles, we used to receive hand-me-down vehicles from law enforcement. We don't receive those anymore. So that's a $100,000 to $200,000 a year expense. We already touched on, you guys noticed already, the reduced revenue in the court system. That's reduced revenue to our office. You got about $2 million less of the monies that we once had that we could spend on salaries and benefits. So, and I think that's part of what you guys recognize looking at what our baseline was. So our expenses, which means less revenue to spend on salaries and benefits, has changed over the last 10 years by $2 million. That's significant for an office that is 90% salaries and benefits, maybe 89% salaries and benefits. So that's just more people or less people for us.
Mr. Bender?
Yeah, Colin, short question on your warrants.
Yes, sir.
You said that there's a committee that reviews the requests. Is that a judicial committee or a state legislative committee?
It's made up of state representatives on the Senate side and congressional side. And so state rep, state senator, appointees from the governor's office, appointees from the Louisiana DA's Association. I want to maybe an appointee from the public defender's office that when they're submitted reviews and actually to your point or someone else's point earlier, there is a group getting together to get more, I guess, to hone in more on the formula utilized. And I think what it's going to end up being is a combination of, they used to say case volume, like how many cases you have pending. That's not appropriate. What needs to happen is number of new cases charged annually. Because if you don't move the old cases, then all of a sudden you could look like you have all these needs, but you weren't just doing your job. So number of new cases per year plus population, and those that have civil responsibilities and those that also have responsibilities in municipalities, and come up with a formula based upon those factors.
And how many years did you say we haven't received an additional warrant?
18.
18 years?
2008.
Okay.
Since 2008 was the last time we received warrants.
So like this committee, they don't look at the census and see what's happening in St. Tammany Parish?
They just, I can't explain it.
Okay.
They just, I mean, look, in 2008, this parish received 16 or 17 warrants. We haven't gotten one since. And I know they're all aware of it. I think there's going to be a reshuffling of some of those warrants. They're going to be evaluating parishes that have lost significant population and aren't filing cases at the same volume that us and other busier districts.
Okay.
And it's not, I forget the number, but the district that Lafayette is, Tangibahoa desperately needs some, us, and probably East Baton Rouge.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you. I've been sitting in the queue for a little bit. Most of my questions were addressed, but Jerry, Councilman Bender just touched on a few things that I was going to ask you. 2018, 17 warrants were given to St. Tammany, Washington Parish, right?
2008.
2008, 17 warrants were awarded. My question was, who awards these things? And obviously, it's a combination of Senate, House representatives, maybe the governor's appointments, a committee of some sort, right? Through the grapevine, I heard these warrants that were basically worth $50,000 a year, right? I heard that maybe that's even going to go up. A warrant would maybe equal $75,000 in the future, in the near future. And I heard that through an attorney I was having a conversation with. You know, if it were just 50, 10 warrants was $500,000. So $500,000, looking at the numbers that we're dealing with here, would make a big impact. Mr. Sims, I love your persistency. I love your passion about what you're trying to do. We're good at formulating committees. Should we have a committee to go address the state committee that awards these warrants? Should we be the squeaky wheel and really put some pressure on these people? Or are we putting enough pressure on that committee or those people that make these determinations as to who's awarded these warrants? Do you feel that would be something we should do?
I think it would definitely help. I do know, I believe one of the reps has pre-filed something for us in the queue, just in case we went into a special session, that this would be an option. But it looks like the special session will likely be very limited, and we'll have to wait till the regular session in 10 months. But I believe, it'll come to me in a minute, but I believe one of the representatives has pre-filed something for us now.
So our state delegation here in St. Tammany Parish, Washington Parish, I think that would probably be the place that we should start putting some pressure, or aggravating, or however you want to call it. I think those are the people that maybe we as a council, we as a parish administration, and the DA's office, I think together we should put together some serious pressure on these folks and let them know. 2008, last time we've been awarded warrants. As Jerry mentioned, our population and everything that goes along with an increase in population has happened over the last, 17 years. It's ridiculous that we hadn't been given any more warrants. And hopefully it does go higher than 50,000 apiece. Maybe it does go to 75,000. So if we get an additional 10, 15 warrants, I think there would be a big impact as to helping to bridge that 30% decrease that we're talking about. Just a thought. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kugel.
Thank you. Mr. Sims, you may recall a couple months ago I asked staff to reach out about, basically on what Mr. Smith said about a resolution, because that is the way we express the will of the council, a resolution in support of asking for more warrants. I thought my understanding at the time is that wasn't appropriate. Do you have it? Would you like us to now? Because I think you obviously would get support for that.
Support is however you guys fashion it. I think as long as y'all you're united in supporting it.
Absolutely.
And then I think yes.
Okay. Well, that answers that question. Just for the public, as you know, people live in St. Tammany Parish a lot of times because they move here because of public safety. And you mentioned you're going through some of the issues with funding when we have less funding than what you need, how it affects personnel and such. How does it affect public safety to where the average person recognizes the difference?
Well, I'll just put it in contrast. I mean, so we're gonna get to the point. So we're gonna go from having, let's say, 9 from all revenue sources, 9.7 for both St. Tammany and Washington Parish. So the entire 22nd JDC has about 9.7. We're gonna have 7. Call it 8, 9 next year, more likely, unless something dramatically changes here. I don't think it will. But look at everything that's happening. We're charging 2 additional divisions worth of cases per year. So now it's 3,000 new felons charged every single year. And then look at certain case category areas. Who is our most vulnerable victim? Children. The Hope House has gone from interviewing 280 children reporting abuse in 2017. Last year, they interviewed forensically 540 kids. Where does everybody think that that's coming? It comes to our office. And it actually, we're in their office before they come to our office. We sit there and look at every single case file of every child that reports that abuse. We're ramping up opioid prosecutions for murder. We have a task force set up that is handling those cases. That means we're going to be ripping people out of other parishes and prosecuting them here because our dealer supplier is sitting in another parish. We built this out to be able to do it. I don't want to lose that and go backwards. In addition, you saw we partnered with the Attorney General's office in looking at an entire subset of, I'd say, investigative leads that were not being worked. What are those? NCMEC tips. So the National Center for Missing and Exploiting Children, about 230 leads per year come affect the 22nd JDC. 40 of those are likely a tier 1 high degree of probability of being a hands-on predator. To arrest before we started this initiative of 280 leads, because nobody has the manpower to work those. We built out a group that can. Don't want to lose that. Those are the additional things. A lot of DA's offices sit there and they're 100% reactive. They have no idea what's happening in the world until someone drops a paper file in their office. That's not how we do things. We are in these major cases, in these categories that I'm describing, we're in the offices with everyone the moment the complaint's made for certain child cases. We're in there working in tandem with law enforcement on getting groups together to be a force multiplier, to be responsive to the biggest investigative tip on the face of the planet of trading child porn and saying, here I am. We're now going to be kicking in the door saying, well, here we are. We don't want to lose that as a group, and we've done it with tremendous partnership with our law enforcement partners, but we're all substituting each other's weaknesses. I don't want to become an albatross around the group that we just helped create, of not being able to fund it. The guy whose salary we split right now, that I hope to be able to continue to maintain, is training all of these people forensically how to do it. We share him with the Covington Police Department, Brian Brown, tremendous asset. They can't afford to pay him on their own, so we contribute to make him available for the entire judicial district. If I keep getting cut, can I meet that commitment? You don't want me to lose that ability. These are new things. This is not 1990 where we sit here for a paper file and someone says, I can't believe he's asking for this much money. I'm asking 3 times less than our partners across the lake. And I can do it for 3 times less almost. I can't keep going the other way. And you got major cases at any given time. I think I have about 220 major sex cases charged and pending trial. Do you want one of these newbies who's not being trained trying those cases? Or do you want me to keep a guy like Zach Popovich that volunteers to go into other jurisdictions to help them learn how to try cases? Do you want me to keep him? Or when he goes to that other jurisdiction to go help them try a case, they say, hey, why don't you stay here? We can pay you X. That's the reality. It's not made up. This is a highly competitive area. When I was a new ADA in New Orleans, Orleans Parish 200 Bro was a training ground for new ADAs. I remember trying 40 cases in 8 months. That's the rate. Now we hire people, they have, 2 trials in a year, 3 trials in a year out of there. They're not ready. So it was like the charity hospital of litigation is what they were known for. Now what happens? Us and Jefferson, we're poaching from each other. I've got to keep what we've built.
Just last thing on that. Thank you, Mr. Sims.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, again, I just want to reiterate, public safety is a priority, and just for the public to understand. So from the general fund, you said it's about $15 million a year, and that's what we pay you from.
No, y'all have about 15.6 in the general fund that comes to you guys to be able to pay out all of your state mandated costs.
And ourselves as well.
And yourself.
Right. And that's why I just want to state, I think as well, we just, as a council, we need to be smart about when we can't even pay the DA what he needs, we need to be smart about how we spend money on ourselves for incidentals and travel. Thank you.
All right, I will say we probably need about at least 20 million more in our general fund to support everything, at least. And I don't think I'm mentioning the coroner. Ms. Seiden?
I just want to, because of public safety from Baton Rouge, and so I think we should all start with a resolution. I agree with David, so that's my comment.
Okay. Ms. O'Brien, and would you please put a resolution on for November?
Thank you.
Ms. O'Brien?
Yes, Colin, what you're telling us about is an emergency in my world. I just looked up, in 1990, our population was over 144,000. In 2000, it was over 191,000. In 2010, it's 233,000 plus. In 2020, it's 264,000 plus. It's no secret that this parish is growing. And it's a wonderful place to be. That's why so many people come here. But again, many people come for two things, the safety and the educational system. And this is scary in my world. And I believe that people respond when they understand something. I think it's up to us to scream from the mountaintops about what's happening, talk about the warrant situation and the unfairness of the fact that you haven't gotten more since 2008. I think a resolution is a great place to start, but I'd like to see a lot more PR on this so people understand exactly what's going on. Again, in my world, I call this an emergency.
I do want to make a point that the state, even if the state gives us 10 warrants, we're still getting cut $2 million, unless you guys generously change your mind. But you can't, and I know that. I would. So as we sit here and we have this kind of collective understanding, and I assume we all agree that we've got a problem with the availability of funds. Is that correct?
Yes.
Does anybody disagree with that?
No.
No. And as we work together to try and find solutions, I'm attempting to work with you guys as well. Is that fair as well?
Yes.
Does anybody disagree with that? Meanwhile, as I try to partner with you guys, I have bar complaints filed against me for trying to help with the situation. Is everybody aware of that? No? No one's aware?
I had a question on that.
So as we collectively work together toward an endeavor to fix our problem, I have to read in the Times-Picayune about a bar complaint filed in our effort to find collective creative solutions to fix our budget problem because of the efforts of the district attorney's office to look at public records and finances to help us find a solution together. That doesn't feel like that's very productive or helpful, does it? So as you sit here, and I anticipate being cut by 30% of parish funding, and try to help find collective cooperative solutions, feels a little raw as you sit here and you're like, man, bar complaint filed because I cannot believe the district attorney's office is requesting public record documents to see where our money is going and how we can be more fiscally responsible with the people's dollars and stop asking them for more money. But that's okay. It just continues to happen.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
President Cooper.
Thank you. First, let me say we're in full support of you getting additional warrants. That was first on my mind. As was stated, our North Shore delegation does have that first and foremost, and I plan to send a letter in support as well as attend any committee meetings in support of that. Secondly, and not less important, is the fact that you've acknowledged, and thank you for acknowledging, that parish government does not have dedicated funding to meet our obligations for the state mandates, criminal justice system, public safety agencies. We have $15 million generated in our general fund, which before the sales tax was eliminated was used for other parish agencies. It wasn't primarily used for public safety agencies or criminal justice or our state mandates. Earlier this year, right at the beginning of the year, the acknowledgement by your office, the judicial system, the sheriff, brought that to the forefront, acknowledging that we do not have the funding since losing it in 2018. And I'm going to have to digress because we know that we're appealing to the public right now, both for your budget, other budgets, but for the fact that we do not have dedicated funding, which we had at one time, to fund these important agencies. And earlier this year, we did attempt, with everybody's support, to find a way of funding your agencies as well as maintaining what we have in our 2-cent sales tax for roads, bridges, drainage, and infrastructure, extending it 25 years to assure that, if passed, would allow your office to have sustainable funding for the next 25 years, as well as allowing us to bond out funding for our important road projects. So at this point, thanks again for acknowledging we're able to fund you up to 70% of your requested budget. And
Of our received money from last year.
yes, thank you for clarifying that. 70% of that budget for 2025, the 2025 budget. Again, it just emphasizes to the public that we're not holding back funding for these important functions. We just do not have the dedicated funding like we once have. And to your point, we have been working together to find solutions, because the last vote showed that the public did not even want to use an existing sales tax to fund all of these agencies while taking a slight cut in some of our other obligations. But even since the time that our sales tax failed in 2018, the state has increased its sales tax up to 5% now, making up the difference of what was reduced by the failure of the election, of the vote in 2018. So we continue to have a difficult time in restoring that funding, but we're not going to give up on that. And we are all working together to establish that in the methods that Mr. Sims mentioned, through restructuring of our tax system. And that's something that we're working on at this time to be able to properly fund our obligations. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kugel? Then I'll take one from the audience.
Thank you. Mr. Sims, sore subject as an attorney myself, who has to pay now to defend you for the bar complaint?
I don't think it'll actually go anywhere.
But doesn't have, it's a
Nope.
cost?
Nope.
Okay.
Most bar complaints that people file a lot of times are such nonsense that the person who they're complained on doesn't even know about it. The only reason why I know about it is because someone decided to put it in the Times-Picayune and bring us a copy.
So you don't have to retain an attorney? Because I know sometimes there's obviously an expense in that, because you're obviously busy
Only if
focusing
they
on...
even take it seriously enough to ask you to respond.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a speaker, Ms. Jamie Segura. And Ms. Segura, I see your questions. Some of them do not relate to the DA right now, but I'm going to go ahead and let you speak.
Good morning, Council, and Mr. Sims.
Good morning.
How are you?
Doing good.
So I've already been told that my questions don't apply to this situation. So for those of you who don't know what my questions are, I've asked one question.
Some of them do not apply, but go through them.
Could the parish sell properties, such as the Safe Haven property, and raise some funding? I don't know why the council ever did that, so buy that property out there across from Fontainebleau. You're not in the healthcare business, you're in the governing business. Should never have purchased that. That is a gold mine for some developer, somebody. It is in deplorable condition, because I've been there. to visit people who have been placed in one of the medical facilities there. I've seen the condition of it. It needs to be basically shut down. Shame on St. Tammany for even being a part of that. And I say that because I work as a CASA, and I've had CASA clients, adults, that have been placed out there. Something's needed, but it's not the parish that should be doing that. How about some of the billion-dollar healthcare industry do that? I also look at, I come to these meetings and I see, we talk about lowering the millage and all that. If St. Tammany voters vote for a millage, let's collect the millage. Why we're trying to lower the millage? Oh, the state says we got to lower this and all. Well, obviously we don't have money. So if we were rolling in the dough, I'd say, yeah, let's cut the millage, but we don't have that money. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that tomorrow there's a town hall at Southeast University in the Columbia Theater, I believe is the location. And it's been billed as having all of the legislative delegation from St. Tammany, Tangipahoa, and Washington Parish there. Will you be there? Are you going to be there? Every one of you should be there. You didn't know about it, did you? Well, I'm old school. I'm on Facebook, and I know about it. You should be there. Jay Galley, Mark Wright, everybody should be put on notice that they're passing state mandates that are unfunded and to get over it. But I'll tell you what, you'll all be scared to do that because all but one of them is a Republican, and y'all are so worried about pleasing the party that you're not going to rock the boat. By the way, I see what your people do in court. Excellent. Excellent work that the ADA did.
Thank you, Ms. Gore. To answer a couple of your questions briefly, the Safe Haven campus, I totally agree with you. I don't think the parish is in that business. That's just my opinion. But unfortunately, it is wrapped up in grants, and therefore we would have to pay back the grants. And Annie, tell me if I'm wrong, we would have to pay back the grants before we could do anything with Safe Haven. So it's a catch-21 situation. The millage, as you know, all of this is dedicated one way or the other. The alimony tax or the general fund is the only one that we have that is not dedicated, and it brings in about $7 million a year. There's the problem. The other millage by the other entities is all dedicated to them. Whether they roll up or roll down, it's their money, okay? Tomorrow at the town hall, I'm sure we will have people there and all. And Mary, if you could send a notice to the council as to when and where and what time.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much for your input. Okay. Ms. Stevens.
Good morning. I heard the district attorney mention that in order to help offset his shortages, he had to dip into his reserve balance for $500,000 last year and perhaps for $600,000 this year?
That's what will happen once we get the cuts.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know how much your fund balance currently is. I'd like to know how much that existing fund balance currently is for your office.
It depends. some of it's not all the same. A lot of it's restricted money, so it depends on what category it is.
You can tell me all the categories. I'd love to see them. Or you can hand me a printed document. That would be very helpful.
I didn't bring you a printed document, but we're more than happy to.
That's online on the audit. Our audit's online.
But that's okay. The audit's also online, but go ahead.
Did Mr. Sin speak into the mic?
No, I said it's on the audit online, but we're going to go through it right now. Where are you?
All right.
We're going to go through it.
Our general fund audited 24 balance is $1,816,216. That was our 24 audited balance.
And what are the other ones? You mentioned there were several.
That was general fund. It's the only one I brought with me.
So how many others?
There are other like restricted funds. So
We have a
I turned
special
over,
fund.
as an example, I turned over to the parish. I turned over to the parish, what, a couple, 500,000 so that they can give it back to me. So they're holding money for us to pay the monies that are the drug monies that were seized from drug dealers. I turn that over to them just for accounting purposes so they can then turn it back to me. So they're holding it until we pay our bills.
Annie has that.
So that's, Annie's got that. Annie, that's, I don't know, 400,000 or 500,000. Those will pay for our investigators' cars for the next 2 years.
Cars, vehicles?
Yeah, we have an entire investigator fleet of vehicles that we lease, that we used to get hand-me-down cars from the sheriff's office, but they don't give us those cars anymore.
Okay,
we
so
have-
that's not a fund balance, though, is it?
Well, I have it parked over there for the next couple of years so that they can send it back to me so I can pay these bills. It's
Okay.
not like just extra money sitting around. I have it earmarked to pay for things.
Yeah, those are the balances I'm seeking. I'd like to
We only
see
have two
all of
funds.
them.
We have a general fund and we have a special fund.
Okay?
The only fund that I brought with us was the general fund, which is what the council asked us for. And the general fund balance is what I just gave you for our 2024 fund balance.
And what's the special fund for?
That's the other fund we have is our special fund.
Didn't you
Is
say
what
there were
it's
two of
called.
them?
I have two funds. I have a general fund and a special fund.
Yeah. So the general fund has 1.8 million in it. How much is in the special fund?
I didn't bring that one with us because they didn't ask us for that because it's restricted.
I think the special funds are grants. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's like,
It's restricted
Yeah.
for only.
We can get that to you,
Right.
Ms. Stevens.
That'd be
That's
great.
okay?
it pays for like the victim witness coordinators.
Right.
A lot of
It's
that
all my
stuff we don't
grants.
charge the parish for. It's
'Cause
grants.
It's restricted.
They're restricted money, so I can't spend it on things that aren't those specific items.
I'd love a breakdown of restricted and unrestricted fund balances for your office, and to know your current staffing, since
Okay,
2 years ago you bumped your
thank you.
budget up 2 million, and now you're 13 people short? That's
Thank you.
troublesome.
What's troublesome?
That you bumped your budget up 2 years ago.
Excuse me.
by 2 million.
I'll answer the question. So just let's go through it. So what we said at the beginning, and these are facts that sometimes, here's part of the problem. We are entering a win-at-all-cost mentality in this country and parish. And so what we don't want to do is listen to information and ignore it. What we're missing is the 2 million in additional funds that no longer exists or is available for the DA's office to spend on salaries and benefits. So I'll recap it. Over the last 3 or 4 years, an extra $1 million in healthcare expenses, a DA retirement, $582,000 in expenses that didn't used to exist, vehicles, $200,000, ticket revenue and court revenue going down. So that is about $2 million that is no longer available to pay for salaries and benefits that once existed. And so when we sit down and meet, making sure that we can maintain our staffing, then we meet and we pass the budget that now exists for 2025, that everyone reviewed in depth and stated in writing that that was this mandatory, relevant, and necessary expenses to fund the DA's office. Now, correct, I did not staff up because we still have not fixed the problem of being able to fund the office. So in order to control the cash burn rate and knowing that the DA's office would have to survive, I would look very foolish as a manager to spend money that I know is not guaranteed over the next several years and hire people just to fire them. So I hold the money, and which is why we built the current level of savings that we do have, knowing that this day, for this 30% cut, I would then have to start eating into the backlog It's several $100,000s per year annually, and the moment these other funds run out that are 2 years' worth of money, we become exponentially faster year over year. I can't put the office in a position to staff up to fire and not being able to maintain the current salary level. If I were to staff up and then have to fire and not have a reserve balance to eat into for today, which I knew was coming, I'd have to cut everyone's salaries, and the same offices that can afford to pay people would then steal all of our employees, and all of the cases that we have would not be prosecutable. I think it's very self-explanatory.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, we touched on it. I will emphasize one thing, Ms. Segura. That safe haven, I kind of agree with you, but that thing was bought from the state, if I'm not mistaken, under Ms. Brista's administration, and we've been kind of strapped with grant money that's tied our hands that we're really not able to sell it at this time, so I wanted to touch on that. Ms. Stevens, you brought up some good points, but the DA's got some good points also. I do believe that rising costs like health care, that's a problem that's affecting you, but at the same time, it affects parish government also. They've got employees that we've got rising cost also, and if I'm not mistaken, maybe our finance director can confirm this, our premiums come out of the general fund for health care costs or not? No? Okay. But I do understand that you've got your needs for money, it's not going to go down. As the parish grows and inflation kicks in and costs for health care, et cetera, so we do need to find a sustainable source of revenue, whether that be the residents of this parish acknowledging the fact that they love living in a safe parish and that they are not funding our judicial system correctly or appropriately. Maybe that will be the answer, but more than likely you've touched on it. People are not paying another nickel in taxes. So how do we restructure our tax system that's in place today, because we've got what Councilman Corbin calls little g. We've got those independent entities within our government that collect their own dollars through tax millages. How do we convince the public and those entities that the strategies that we're using with the dollars that those taxpayers are paying, how do we convince you that we can better structure that to meet everybody's needs more appropriately? That's the question, in my opinion. So, Ms. Segura, safe haven would be a nice sale. I agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Bender, and then if anyone has short questions, we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. You know, when you look at, let's look at politics, because you mentioned it earlier, okay, with the warrants, comes into play. I think we should go straight to the governor. Okay, I really do. Because this parish, if you want to talk about politics, and the governor's a Republican, okay, the legislature's Republican, and I'm not trying to make a political issue out of this like appointing members to the library board happens, okay, but we provide a high amount of those votes in St. Tammany Parish, okay? And then I'm listening on the TV, and I understand it. I'm not in any way doubting what the president is doing for public safety. But I would bet the state is going to pay for the 1,000 National Guard troops that they put in New Orleans and Baton Rouge. It's a lot of money to pay those people to work in those somewhat unsafe communities. I think we need to go to Governor Landry with a plan, because our state legislators, I like them. I like this group, okay? But there are few of many You know, we have two, I think we have what, two state senators and a state senator that has just a small piece of St. Tammany Parish. But there are 37 throughout the whole state. Me personally, and I've said it before, and I'm going to end with this. I personally think, and I'm not talking about the legislature or the governor, I think over time, going back and over time, I think this state has ripped off local governments. They put tremendous burdens on local governments, and as you said earlier, no, I think Councilman Smith said, and the state just, you know, they raised their sales tax on the Bell Edwards that first year, 1 cent, never had to take a vote from the people. They can just do it. Never had to take a vote from the people. I think, Rick, didn't you say that, and they raised it a half a cent?
I wish I could say that. I did say that, but I didn't say that.
Colin, you may have said it.
President Cooper.
Somebody up here said, President Cooper, in that they just raised it a half a cent. Okay? So I think we need, the guy with the power is the governor. Okay? And I think we need to go to him. I think we need to tell him, we produce, we come through for them, and they need to come through for us and other parishes that need it. I am absolutely convinced the state has the money somewhere. We're talking about safe haven. Can you imagine how many safe havens this state has that they could take money from? I'm not talking about getting rid of something. I'm talking about taking some funds from different spots. You're talking about, and we're talking about, how can we be more creative with spreading our funds out? Well, Governor, how can you be more creative to help us? I mean, they're state courts, but we have the mandate to pay for them. You're a state official, and we have the mandate to pay for you in your whole department. I mean, they're just kicking the bucket to every local government in this state. That's all I'll say. Thank you.
Mr. Strickland?
Yes, I must confirm what Councilman Bender said, because of the fact that we need to go directly to the source, because if we can afford to send troops to D.C. to pick up trash, we can afford to put money into our own state.
Thank you. Any more questions related to the DA's budget? Okay. All right. DA Sims, you're off the hook for right now. I thank you and your staff, and we're going to take a short 5-minute break.
So next we're going to move on to the 22nd Judicial District. Once again, just as a reminder, similar to the DA's office, these are the state mandated costs that the Judicial District submits their budget to the parish, and this funding also comes out from the general fund. I'd also like to mention they have been a close partner with us as well in working through these issues and keeping that communication between our organizations, which I know all of y'all are appreciative of and hope to continue in the future. The first slide that we have is just kind of their basic ask. As differently than the DA's office, it's just in one budget, so it's not broken down. It's all coming through the general fund. And as you can see, most of those funds are coming through payroll.
Okay. Judge, would you like to start off by saying making a statement?
Good morning. Thank you all for having us here today. Our Chief Judge, Judge Umbrecker, unfortunately wasn't able to be here. He had plans in advance that he couldn't rearrange. So I'm here standing in and filling in for him. I'm here with our Court Administrator, Amber Mitchell. I'll do my best to answer whatever questions you have and present whatever information you need. I can't promise you I will speak with as much passion as Mr. Sims, but I do promise you I will be much more brief. First of all, I want to, you mentioned it, but the court thanks the council, and we want to recognize and acknowledge all the work y'all have put in. We've met countless hours trying to come up with solutions for this issue for years now, but it really ramped up last year. We acknowledge and recognize the problem we have, and I'm thankful and I commend y'all for looking for creative solutions to fix what I think have all come to the conclusion is an underlying tax structure problem. Not to beat a dead horse, but I think we can all agree that it is highly unlikely that we're going to get the voters of St. Tammany Parish to dip deeper into their pockets, and frankly, I don't blame them for that. So I encourage y'all and thank you for your efforts in coming up with alternate solutions to try to restructure our existing taxes. And one of the things, I think we acknowledged that early on in the process when we looked at the rededication. When our parish president, Mr. Cooper, he sent out a letter, and I think it took some time, but everybody's on the same page with that conclusion that we really don't have a revenue problem, we have a tax structure problem. So I'm hoping that moving forward, y'all will continue to look at that to come up with a long-term and sustainable solution to this problem. In terms of our budget, as y'all know, we essentially have a standstill budget. We have been submitting and operating off of for years. We're not creating new positions. In fact, we also have vacant positions that we haven't filled over the last 7-8 years because of the issues we're having with funding. So it's pretty straightforward. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Okay, thank you. I'll go first. You know that you're being cut 30%, and I want to ask, will the judges, can they handle that? I know it's probably very difficult, but what do you foresee?
In the short term, we can absorb it. You know, like it was mentioned, I think 93% of our budget is personnel, and those are essential personnel. We are a pretty lean and trim operation. I won't beat a dead horse with the volume of cases that go through the 22nd Judicial District. Mr. Sims touched on that, although he focused mostly on the criminal side. We have a high volume of civil cases that we also deal with. We do that with a number of judges. We have 12 judges. For the volume of cases that we handle and that go through that courthouse, we have a relatively low number of judges, and we're able to do that because we have sufficient and competent support staff in doing that. So yes, we can absorb it for a year, but that's not something that we can sustain for very long. You know, in all these discussions we've had, we've been asked, rightly so, what can we cut in our budget? And the truth is, we just don't have that kind of fat to trim because we're all personnel. Can we, in order for us to continue to deliver the service that we deliver and to handle the volume of dockets that we handle and to meet our oaths of office and our constitutional mandate, we need the staff that we have. So in the short term, the answer to your question is yes, we can absorb it. It's not going to be pleasant. It's going to put us in a bad financial position, and we'll be lacking reserves that we think are necessary for us to be responsible, fiscally responsible, in case there is some other emergency that comes up that requires us to dip into those funds. But we can sustain it for a very short period of time. What are we looking at? If we continue at that rate, at 30%, we could last 18 months? Not long, not more than 2 years. About a year and a half.
And you would be pushing it to do that?
And we would be pushing it to do that, yes.
And I will point out to the council that the state pays for the judges. They recognize them as state judges, and I assume benefits. So
yes.
everything for the judges, salary and benefits are paid by the state. Okay, yeah. Mr. Impostata.
What positions have you not filled?
We have an administrative assistant position that's vacant, not filled for our Commissioner Burke. We have, they're mostly administrative assistant positions. That's for our Commissioner, Jim Burke. In court administration, we have an administrative assistant position open. We do not have an accountant. We have an accounting position open, so we have one person essentially doing two, I'd call it 3 jobs. For our jury coordinator, we used to have a custodian that helped. We get a little bit of help from the parish as far as keeping up maintenance and cleaning in the courthouse. We had somebody that we paid that I think was a part-time employee who passed away. We haven't filled that position, so we're all kind of chipping in with the cleaning. We need another court reporter as a rover for fill-in. It's very difficult when a court reporter takes vacation or is sick to get people to fill that position. We have very busy, each division is very busy, so they have a hard time getting fill-ins. A lot of time we have overflow, so we have a court reporter position vacant. And then we have an administrative assistant in our probation office and another probation officer position that's vacant as well. So I think we actually have a total of 11. Now, some of those are in our specialty courts, which, as you know, is funded separately. So I'm not counting those as vacant positions for purposes of what we ask the parish to fund.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'd also just like to say thank you, and as well as District Attorney Stems and all your staff for helping us try to work through these financial issues and to come up with a solution. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And may I add, I think it's also true with the DA. You mentioned that you pay for janitorial. The parish does not do your offices.
They provide some services. I think they do the trash. They're not doing the trash anymore? All right, we're doing the trash. Public restrooms. Public. I'm not getting into the details, but we have in each of our offices, we have 2 restrooms. One of mine happens to be one that for some reason a lot of the court personnel, including bailiffs, the male bailiffs, like to use, and they're not good at aiming. So we have a lot of cleanup to do in there.
Thank you for that information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully they shoot better. Yeah.
All right, and I also think that District Attorney, you have hired some people to clean also for your, we won't go into details, into the, for your offices because the parish has really, does not have the money to do that. Is that correct?
Yes, it's paid for ours as well.
Okay, all right. Ms. O'Brien.
It's more information than I was expecting.
I didn't give it all to you either.
Well, that was enough. I was actually going to ask you the same thing Councilman Impestata asked, but since you answered that question about open positions and how many, do y'all have a turnover issue like the DA's office has? I mean, is that affecting what I would call the quality of work because you have too much turnovers? Or are you seeing that also?
We don't have nearly the turnover they have.
Okay, good to hear.
So
Thank you.
Yeah, that's been a big plus for us.
Okay. Mr. Smith.
Judge, looking at this slide right here, I mean, you're right, majority of it's payroll for your employees and people that keep the court system rolling. It's insignificant. It's when they say that every nickel counts, but it's $35,000 for rental equipment. What kind of things do you guys rent?
That's for copy machines. I'm sorry. That's for copy machines, that type of office equipment.
Okay, and I'm assuming the DA and everybody else in that building uses copy equipment. We've talked about consolidating here at the parish different departments who have their own budgets for copy equipment, et cetera, consolidating it all just to see if it might be a little bit more cost effective. Have you guys considered taking stuff like that, rental equipment, copy equipment, maybe having one big copy room that everybody can use, as opposed to you guys spending $35,000 renting office equipment?
We have looked at that. We've since I've been there, which started in 2020. each year, of course, we run into this problem when we budget, and we've had cost reduction committees. We have 12 judges' office. We have administration, we have probation, and they're located, excuse me, as you know, that's a very large building. And they're located on 3 different floors. It would be extremely difficult for us to have one copy room and have everybody make copies and print to one copy room. It would be, it would reduce our efficiency dramatically.
I get it. I get it. I just threw it out there as just a thought.
But I do like the idea of maybe consolidating parish-wide with all the different entities. If we can get together and negotiate better deals and save money, because I don't know how many copy machines or that type of equipment we have throughout the parish in all the different entities we have, but there might be some cost savings in doing that. I'm all for that, and I don't think anybody, at the courthouse would be opposed to that.
And
if we can save money, we're all for it.
And we don't have a procurement guys not in the audience, but there may be a state contract out there.
There is.
And would that be all inclusive at the judicial? Are they on the same contract? But wouldn't it be beneficial? Wouldn't it be more beneficial if everybody got on the state contract and we? Ms. Gina Hayes.
Okay. So we are on state contract for parish government right now. So we've already consolidated as much as we possibly can. I don't know if the judges are on state contract, if the judicial system's on state contract or not. I don't know, but we can look into it. I mean, that's something we can assist them with.
We're pinching pennies around here these days, it looks like.
No, we'd be happy to assist them. We have an excellent procurement director, and I'm sure he'd be happy to assist.
Let's do that.
Something we can look at.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that.
Anything else, Mr. Smith? Nothing? Okay. Mr. Corbett?
Yeah, thank you, Judge Lobello, for being here today, and thank you, Chairwoman, for allowing me to ask a couple questions. A couple of them, you talked about the 11 open slots. If you could provide us, you don't have to answer it off the cuff, but what the split is between direct versus specialty, and then what's the rough value, rough order of magnitude?
What do you mean, the split in terms of?
You said some of them were direct employees and some of them were specialty, and so just what the split is between those two categories. Because some of them are not funded by us, some of them would be funded by us. And then secondly, what's the relative value of both of those pots? And if you have it, great. If you don't have it, I can wait till you
I'm counting them up right now. Give me a second.
Okay.
Is it 2?
Specialty court.
We got the AOT vacant and FT case manager.
So it would be 3.
Three vacancies in our specialty courts.
And then so the other 8 are in your some direct responsibility?
Correct.
Okay. And secondly, can you provide a relative value? What is, if you bundled all 11 of those up, is that
the dollar amount?
$500,000, not on an individual category, but
I don't know that right off. With benefits.
Yeah.
We could ballpark a salary, but as far as benefits, I don't think we could give you a number.
It's several $100,000 for sure.
Okay. If you could ROM it, ROM's plus or minus 20%. If you could just tell me what that roughly is. It $100,000 per person? So that's 1.1 million? Or
no, it's not nearly $100,000 a person.
Okay, so they're just, and you don't have to do it this second. If you could just provide it.
I would guess looking at the positions. If we're talking about removing the specialty court positions, of them $400,000 or $500,000 in salaries.
That is plenty close enough. That's all I was looking for. Is I had no idea what levels those different employees were.
Yeah.
Secondly, I noticed that you guys have budgeted for a 3% COLA for this year in an austere time. Can you provide some background for that?
Yeah, I think
that's worth about $100,000.
We are much the same boat as the district attorney's office in terms of trying to recruit and retain employees. I can tell you that we're in the legal field. Each division of this court has a staff attorney and an administrative assistant. And if you look at what those employees are paid to work for us and compare that to what they would be paid in the private sector, they are woefully, embarrassingly underpaid. People come work there because of the stability of that job. What we're trying to do, even though it's frankly insignificant in terms of the difference between what they're paid, what they would be paid in the private sector, is whenever we can, We also have ridiculous inflation, and cost of living has gone up dramatically, although hopefully it's making a turn in the other direction. We're trying to retain employees, because I can tell you personally, when I got elected, I had to, my staff attorney left to go into the private sector to make more money, and it was ridiculously hard for me to hire a new staff attorney for the amount of money we're paying. I'd get resumes, they'd come in for interviews, they'd ask about the starting salary, and they would literally laugh about it. So what we're trying to do is retain the employees we have, because once we lose them, if we lose them, it's going to be extremely difficult for us to replace them.
Okay, I understand that point, but and I appreciate it. But you said a moment ago that you were not having a turnover issue relative to what the DA is having, and so it seems like your response seems somewhat counter to what you said a minute ago.
I don't know how it's counter to what I said. We don't have a high turnover. If employees' salaries are remaining stagnant, not going up, no cost of living increases, or if we have to start letting employees go because we're not funded, we're never going to be able to replace those positions. That's what I said.
I understand that. I just don't have a look back to know what your history's been in COLAs for historical times. I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, I think generally, as long as I've been there, when the parish gives it, we give it. We try to give it. We ask for it.
So ultimately, the judges make that decision on a yearly basis, and we look at the rate of inflation, we look at the CPI, the index, to see what the inflation rate is. And so on a yearly basis, the judges decide. I know that typically the parish makes their decision a little bit later in the year, like around December when they're going through their budget amendments. So I would say in the last 2 to 3 years, it's been 2%, 3%. There was that year where the parish gave the 5% COLA, and basically for the court funded that, and we absorbed the position of the accountant to fund that 5%. So as far as historical, that's the last 2 to 3 years.
Okay, that's plenty.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
Just to give you an illustration, in terms of staff attorneys, for example, our average salary is in the mid-70s. We have attorneys who have 15, 20 years experience making in the $75,000 a year. That's nowhere near competitive with the private sector, and we have to try to do what we can to keep up. We're not submitting budgets asking for significant pay raises. The only thing we've submitted is a request when we can for that COLA increase.
No, and candidly, Judge LaBelle, I appreciate the transparency of you putting it right on there as a premise embedded in your budget. So I appreciate that being there. We looked diligently, as we did at the DA's office, we looked diligently at your funding last year. And so I'm very comfortable with that. I understand what's behind it, and that the needs that you're laying out are real. I was only asking about the one line item. I do have one last question.
Yes.
Do you also have a merit increase pool that's in addition to the COLA, or?
We don't have a merit increase. No, we do not.
Okay.
We don't have the money for that.
Yeah, I didn't see it listed, so I just wanted to ask.
This is the number I came up with.
That's cool. I said 400. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Phillips?
Judge, am I correct in assuming that if you lose staff, then the judges have to do the staff work? And then if you have to do the staff work, you're not performing your required duties?
Absolutely. We have an administrative assistant and a staff attorney. So the staff attorneys help us with legal research, preparing cases, and our administrative assistants do the administrative work. Yeah, if we didn't have that staff, we would be left to do all of the research and writing, and also keeping up with all the administrative tasks that our secretaries do. And that would take us away from our actual function.
And when you look at time costs money, the value of an hour of your time as compared to paying somebody to do that job, that it might even exceed the cost by you not being able to perform your duties.
It would far exceed the cost. Our efficiency and our functioning would be so dramatically decreased it would be a problem with clogged up dockets. The other thing that we've talked about in private meetings, and I know I mentioned that our specialty courts are separately funded. The judges and our staff, we volunteer for that. If we did not have the support staff we have to help us with our normal criminal and civil dockets, I have really three specialty courts that I do. I'm simply not going to have the time to devote to those specialty courts. So that's going to be another problem, is a lot of those specialty courts going to end up going away.
I have one last question. Recently, there was money that is going to come from the opioid fund to support the Veterans Specialty Court. Are you able to use that money in any way to support your staff? I mean, because okay, Mary's saying no. Okay, thank you.
Well, I don't know that I agree with Mary on that. But we have been working with the task force and going to meetings. We've submitted some requests. We're hopeful. I think some were, at least tentatively, some of our requests were tentatively approved. I don't know. I think my understanding is the council has to vote on that next. So we're hopeful for that. But we are submitting a request that would, from that fund, help fund our support staff, our administrative assistants and staff attorneys. We presented that. We presented some data to support that their functions relation to opiates, to drug cases. And we're hopeful that the parish or that task force will consider that. I don't think a decision has been made on that yet. And I now know that Mary's not on our side for that one.
Just to clarify, it's not about being on your side. Before the council at the October meeting will be the requests that have been approved by the opioid task force, and the ones for the 22nd JDC have a lot to do with the specialty court. So housing programs, transportation, things that they don't have grant funds to help, and really those wraparound services. For example, with the specialty courts, and please correct me, they have to have an address. So that is a big stumbling block for someone to participate, because they have to be a part of probation and parole, because they are pleading guilty. So we are responding to those needs through the opioid task force, and that will be before y'all in October.
And my follow-on to that is, Mary, since you're on this, are we able to request more money from the opioid fund to support other specialty courts that would help in some way?
The 22nd gave their request for all specialty courts, their needs at each individual one. I think if you're considering increasing, my suggestion, we'd have to get with Shannon Hattier to see where those needs are. But I think as far as the specialty courts, I think the task force has recommended everything that they requested for the specialty courts specifically.
Okay, thank you.
And they have
Yeah, and we're very thankful and grateful for that.
Thank you. Mr. Impostana?
Good. You mentioned that the average cost for your staff attorney is $70,000 to $75,000. What is the starting? Because I found that remarkably low, and I was
50. Starting is
50,000.
That's what I'm telling you. So when I went through the hiring process and the interviewing process, what happens in that process is the attorneys who have any type of experience come in, and they're coming usually out of the private sector. And they're just not interested because of the pay. Then you start off with attorneys fresh out of law school that they're green, they don't even have a clue what they're doing, and even those people the starting salary is $50,000. So you're gonna, if you're lucky, get somebody straight out of law school, hopefully just passed the bar exam, and we'll be paying them $50,000 as an attorney.
Thank you.
Mr. Kugel.
Thank you, Judge. One quick question. I know this, I think, come up before. The staff attorneys, do other JDC, each judge in each division has their own staff attorney? Or do they share?
Some do. Some have their own and some don't. Some of the smaller, more rural ones don't. But we have a significantly higher case volume than most of these districts, both on the criminal and the civil side. So we're moving and adjudicating quite a bit more cases. You've probably seen articles in the Picayune about New Orleans and the number of judges they have and how clogged up their dockets are. It's one thing that we're very proud of, and we're fighting very hard. Sometimes I get the sense that some of y'all think that we should find areas where we can cut our budget in terms of our staff, our support staff. And the reason that we're so jealously guarding them is they are a major part of our productivity and a major part of what we're able to do in that court in terms of the volume of cases. And this is, we've met in all these meetings, we've all cooperated with the council, the administration, and the district attorney's office, because all of this is part of a pipeline of a very high volume of cases that come through our court from on the street and law enforcement agencies to the district attorneys all the way through the court system. And if one part of that pipeline gets clogged up, the entire system's going to crumble.
And I had, one of my other questions was about that, but one other thing. So the attorneys that you do hire out of law school, are they eligible for public service loan forgiveness for their school loans?
I'm not aware of any program that would do that for staff attorneys for courts. They're generally, those are geared towards law enforcement, including district attorney's office.
Okay.
I'm not aware of any loan forgiveness programs for attorneys who work for the court system.
Okay, and then the last question is just what you hit on a minute ago and sort of what I asked DA Sims. The practical effect that the public understands of you guys not getting sufficient funding. I know like it's going to affect family. Like this, is it just end up causing delays and such for family court and such things, those types of things?
Yes. So the result is that we're constitutionally mandated to give priority to criminal cases because you have criminal defendants who are sitting in jail waiting their day in court in their trial, and the law requires that we give priority to those cases. What that means is all your civil cases, from domestic family cases, child custody, divorce cases, regular civil litigation, civil disputes, anything from personal injury cases to successions, contract disputes, everything you can think of. All those are going to have to take a back seat to those criminal cases, and that's going to cause a significant delay in the resolution of those cases.
And businesses looking to locate to St. Tammany Parish, I know a lot of times they do look at the legal climate as well, and so if litigation is not resolved in an efficient and timely manner, I mean, I think that's also a consideration they take.
I think that would be a major hit for the parish. And look, that comes back to we're extremely proud and jealously guard the efficiency of this judicial district. And we're funded, when this started, I look at that courthouse building. It's a big, beautiful building. You look at each of our offices, we can assume, I hope rightfully so, that the parish planned for this in the beginning when they designed that building. Each of us have our courtroom, and each of us has a chambers, which has an office for an administrative assistant and a staff attorney. And that's worked. We're handling a very high volume of cases, and we're doing it efficiently. Probably the most, I think without a doubt, the most efficient judicial district in the entire state. So we want to keep it that way.
Mr. Bender.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Judge, first, certainly we appreciate the work that y'all do, helping to keep St. Tammany safer. Question on warrants. We were talking about, trying to get an increase in warrants with DA Sims. Can warrants be issued to staff attorneys?
I'm not aware of any state program for state funding for staff attorneys or any judicial staff at all.
Okay, so
the problem is the statutory scheme that's set up, and some of y'all have touched on that, is that it's a state mandated funding on the burden is on the parish, the way the law works, and that we're in a little bit different position than the district attorney's office, because we can't go out and generate any kind of revenue. And some of these things that you talk about, the criminal court fund, those other things, we can't just take that money and use it to pay for our staff, because there's constitutional prohibitions to that as well. So hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. So the state pays the salaries and benefits of the judges, but no other employees that support the judges.
The state says, parish, you pay for that.
Yeah.
That's what the law says.
Gotcha. I'm a firm believer that, and we discussed, certain members of the council discussed this. I don't remember how many were in the room at the time, but in 1986, we were under the police jury system, and they were starting to shut down barns. We have barns around the parish with employees for public works, and having to eliminate public work employees because the parish didn't have the funding to build roads, maintain roads, etc. And it really came down to that. And I recall, the people then got the message and supported the 2-cent sales tax that we still have, okay? One of the things that concerns me with as the message gets to the citizens, and I just want to know your opinion on this. I think the citizens, this is just my view, I think the citizens look at, if they have a problem, they call 911, sheriff comes out or a city police department comes out, okay? And let's say that person gets arrested and the citizen realizes they take him to jail, okay? I think there's an assumption that our judges and the DA, and it's accurate, are tough on criminals, okay? Juries are tough on criminals. We got the nickname, I don't know who gave it to us years ago, but St. Tammany, And I'm concerned that we lose that nickname. So my question is, if this lack of funding continues, will there be, by not by preference, but by need, will there be more plea bargaining when a case could be won against a criminal, enough evidence? Well, is plea bargaining a way of course, it gives a lesser sentence, but at the same time, is it a way that we might have to go because we don't have the sufficient funds? Do you understand what I'm trying to ask?
I understand what you're saying. I think, frankly, that would be a question better directed to Mr. Sims. I will tell you from my experience practicing law and as a judge, if the district attorney's office is not sufficiently staffed, the only way to deal with the volume of cases that they have coming in would be to significantly increase the number of pleas and that they do, plea bargains, plea agreements. And the bottom line is, to make that happen for them, they're going to have to make better offers to the defendants.
Right.
So the answer to your question, I would guess, based on my experience, is yes, you'll see a lot of that. In addition to that, as I mentioned, this whole system is a pipeline from the law enforcement agencies on the street to the DA's office to the court. And that includes the jail. So as we lose funding for all these agencies across the board, you're also going to see the jail not being able to house our criminal defendants. You're going to see us being forced as judges, because we cannot timely handle cases, criminal cases, to release them because they have a right to a speedy trial. And if they're not given their speedy trial after demanding it, we have no choice but to release them from their bond obligation. Doesn't mean the case is dismissed. What that means is they no longer have a bail, a bond obligation, and they're free to roam the streets.
Yeah.
They otherwise would be confined in pretrial status waiting for their day in court. So it's something that affects the system deeply across the board, all the way through the pipeline.
So it's not a question for you, Judge, but maybe you could offer your opinion if you want. If not, that's fine. I've been on the council for all 5 or 6 attempts that have been taken to get this funded, or to take 17% from Sales Tax District 3 and allocate it over to the DA and the judges. In my strong opinion, the messaging has not been good, okay? That's not the fault of the DA or the judges, okay? And I'm not going to put blame anywhere. But I'm a strong believer that if we have to get the message to the public that if they need the police or the sheriff and an arrest is made, we have to have a place to put that prisoner. Okay? Federal judges are not going to let us overcrowd a jail. Isn't that still the case?
Yes, the jails are subject to supervision by the Department of Justice and ultimately federal courts.
Okay. And, you know, you stated, as I thought, we would wind up with more plea bargains. We wouldn't be able to support jury trials, so we plea bargain with them. I think we have to get that kind of message out to the public, because if the public if members of the public never have to deal with the court system, okay, someone's not broken into their home or hurt or worse, one of their relatives or friends and that, they don't have, like, I haven't had any contact with the criminal court system, okay? And my neighbors around me, I don't believe have had any contact. So I think we really need to send a strong message the next attempt we take, how the process has to work to get the right result for the crime committed if they're found guilty. Do you agree with that?
I think it's a combination of at least the rededication, how it was packaged and presented, and partly the messaging. But I will tell you this, Mr. Impastato, Mr. Corbin, some of y'all were with us. We beat the streets heavily. We went to every homeowners association meeting, every organization meeting. Y'all kindly had town hall meetings. We were everywhere. We were speaking to teachers groups, you name it. We were everywhere.
Right.
And the message, the response we got, to me, was crystal clear. Kind of surprising, but crystal clear. The people in St. Tammany Parish, what they've told us is, we pay enough in taxes. And that kind of goes hand in hand. That's why I mentioned what President Cooper said. We don't really have a revenue problem. We have a tax structure problem. We have pretty educated and sophisticated voters. They don't want to pay any more taxes. What they told us straight up was, we want you to be able to be fully funded and continue to do the work you're doing. We appreciate it. We want the parish to do it with the taxes we already pay. We don't want to pay any more taxes. That's partly a product of the political and social climate that we're in now over the last several years. But frankly, I don't think that the voters of this parish are going to approve a new additional tax. I just don't see it happening. I've been pretty outspoken in our meetings about that, and I don't know if everybody agrees with that or not, but I don't know that it's a problem with messaging. I think it's a problem with the voters are fed up with us reaching in their pockets and taking their money, and they want us, they say, we fund you enough, figure out how to make it work where you can take the taxes we pay and pay for everything you need, because there's enough money there.
Yeah, and I agree with you partially on that, Judge, and I know a strong effort was made, but I do think that people use roads every day, okay? And all of us that go to New Orleans from time to time or lived in New Orleans for a time, I mean, there's potholes everywhere. You know, you're doing this, dodging back streets and so forth. The things that people use a lot, I believe they're willing to pay for, as long as they see excellence there, okay? I just think we still have to take another shot with the same effort that you talked about, that everyone who was involved in getting the message out to the public. But I think we have to have a better, simpler, and more straightforward message as well, okay? Not against looking at where all of our taxes go, but one of the unfortunate things is is when we go to the store and we pay the tax on something, half of it or more is sales tax. And that doesn't stay in our parish. Some of it comes back to us for not you guys, well, other than the judges, because the mandate is on the parish government. But some of it comes back to us for, sewerage projects or road projects or whatever. But I think people just look at, I'm paying 10 cents. So I just want to go on the record to say, I think we need to take one more shot at a better message with the people, a simpler message, that what happens if 2 years from now you don't have what you need. You're making do right now, and you're saying you've got 2 years. I heard you say that earlier, and the DA's saying he's got 2 years. What happens after 2 years? And I think we have to get that message out to the people. That's just my opinion.
I don't fully disagree with that. I think the problem is, or what I've experienced in our discussions as we were doing this, is people think we've been crying wolf, because we've been doing that since 2018 or before. And so I don't know that we even have the credibility to make to impress that upon people that it's a real possibility.
Gotcha.
We're in a tough situation.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Bender. Mr. Phillips, if we'll keep it short, we'll wrap this up. Mr. Phillips and then Mr. Smith.
Yeah, it's real simple. At one point, a couple of years back, I think it was an opening of the court, Judge Barris made a comment. He compared the three branches of the government, how much, the percentage of funding you got, and it was like, you all received like 1%.
Minuscule.
What were those numbers again?
I don't remember the numbers.
Okay, it was really out of whack.
Low single digits.
Right, it was really out of whack. Like you had like 40 here and 1 here and 30 here, whatever those numbers were, but you did not receive the adequate amount of money. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Okay. It's pretty simple to me, but we've got limited options as far as creating sustainable income to do what you guys would like for us to do, what the DA would like for us to do. As far as Mr. Bonder's statements, I tend to believe that we need to go to the bat one more time. It wasn't a complete failure last go around. For some reason, I don't know what the discord is, but the east side of the parish kind of frowned on it. But I can only speak for the west side of the parish. I believe Councilman Phillips, I think your district was in favor. I believe your district was in favor. Larry's district was in favor. My district was in favor. Not only for the library, but for rededication of the sales tax. So it's not totally out of the question that if we marketed and explained it and educated the public in a better manner. I'm not pointing the fingers at anybody, because we agreed as to who our marketing team was going to be. And we spent sufficient money to get that firm to market it. I, from day one, didn't think they were doing a good job, to be honest with you. Listen, you can't just say people have told us 4 times or 5 times. No, they told us a renewal of a sales tax 3 or 4 times. They didn't. They only told us about rededicating the sales tax 1 time that they want in favor, and it wasn't by a huge amount. This idea that we've got a lot of options to solve this problem, that we don't. You know, we're talking to the DA and our efficiency committee. We're talking about consolidating all these monies that other little parish entities collect on their own. You know, that might be a bigger hurdle than going back to the public and educating them and saying, hey, guys, here's your options. And yes, there's going to have to be repercussions. There should be repercussions right now for that tax failing back in, when was it, March When was that election? I forgot already. March. There's no repercussion. So yeah, if I'm a voter, I'm going to say, see, things are rolling around just like I told you. You know, they can get by with us not. Yeah, no, we really can't. We're kind of in desperate times, and I really wish there would be some kind of repercussion, whether it be the courthouse closing down, if that's legal, maybe a day a week, or maybe the tower's closing down another day a week, so that people say, why is it closed? Well, because we don't have the money to run it, okay? And then go out and educate people and get them to understand, hey, how can half of the parish agree with it and the other half doesn't agree with it? Something's wrong there, okay? It just can't be that divided. I don't get it. So anyway, I'm just kind of ranting on that, but Jerry, I agree with you. I think it's still something that we can't just say, no, it'll never work, because we don't really have a whole lot of options. We got to maybe make that work, okay? That's it.
Mr. Kugel, please keep it brief. We got to roll.
Okay, yeah, I agree with my colleagues. One thing is, one of the things, feedback I heard during the March ballot is there was more concern about the renewal rather than the restructuring. And we clearly have a restructuring issue, a structure issue. I mean, everyone's agreeing on that. This has to be addressed one way or the other. So, I mean, we have to deal with the structure issue.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now, one of the responses was always, when we went to talk to these people, you're telling us it's not a new tax, but you're extending it 25 years. To us, it's a new tax. And you know, how do you respond to that? It's not really a new tax, but it is new for 25 more years. So,
Madam Chair, if I could, just a brief re-comment on Councilman Smith.
Very brief, because we have to wrap this up. We're behind.
And Rick, I agree with everything that you said. I want to say this. In the East, much more so than the West, and I'll leave it at this, things have been changing over the last several years, okay? The police department's doing a fine job, the sheriff's department's doing a fine job, but for different reasons, crime is increasing. And I think that with really good messaging, I think the East will deliver more votes. That's just my thoughts, okay? Because it's not staying just stagnant. We have to be more aware right now in the East because we're seeing an uptick in crime, okay? So I think we take one more good shot with good messaging, and we do a better job in the East of delivering that, okay? And I think that we got a shot. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Judge, for your participation. I hope it wasn't too much for you.
No, I enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
All right.
And thank you
so much
for all your efforts. I know you all will come up with a solution. I have full faith in you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're going to go right into the library, and I will ask the council to please hold your questions to the budget so we can finish this in a timely manner.
Yeah, we're just going right in.
We're going right in. I can't get y'all back. Okay. Thank you so much, Kelly, for being with us.
Thank you for having us. Can you hear me? Whoop. Yeah.
And Mr. Branton also. If you want to get right into your presentation.
Okay. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here today. I'd like to introduce Mr. Branton, Mr. Chuck Branton, our board president. I also have with me Tanya DiMaggio, who's the Assistant Director of Support for the library. And of course, my name is Kelly LaRocca, and I am the library's director. I did want to stop and thank the parish council members that took us along with them on the very many stops to homeowners associations, meetings of various kinds. We're really grateful for the opportunity, and we were able to get our message out to the voters about what the library does, and we were ever so grateful that our millage renewal passed this March. If you open up the folder that I provided to each of you, you will see in the front pocket the 2024 annual report. Just to give you an idea of the business that we did last year, we had over 1 million items circulate, 602,675 patrons visits, usages of the Wi-Fi and our computers, 88,876 people attended events at the library, and we had 8,500 new cards issued last year. So on top of the patrons that we had new cards issued. And we do serve the population of the entire parish. We have 12 branches, and we provide all of the services we do at $41.37 per capita. That's $28.04 less than the state average of $69.41 for public libraries. We did have an economic impact study done by Southeastern, which helped a lot in getting our message out to the voters. But for every dollar invested in St. Tammany Parish Library, we are able to return $1.65 to the community. So what I have in front of you is a basic breakdown of our operating financials and expenditures. In the questions that we received to prepare for today, they asked about our operating budget and not our capital budget, which is actually the parish's to hold. We do have money for capital projects that the parish holds on to because they are the owners of our buildings. So what I'm going to be talking about right now is our operational budget. As you can see, last year our revenue was $13,063,762.67. You can see the majority of it is ad valorem taxes. So it is the property tax millage that is passed through the parish to us. We do get a little bit of state revenue sharing, $264,301 last year, a little bit of interest. Fines and fees don't really make up the majority or even close to 1% of what we receive in revenue. So I always tell people, if you've been keeping books because you're scared to come in and pay your fines, like we really don't. We just want the books. It doesn't really fund a lot of our budget. We get a little bit in donations, and then auction proceeds when we have furniture, fixtures, and equipment that are no longer needed for a public purpose. Our expenditures last year were $12,542,336.21. And I know the first thing you look at is like, oh gosh, Kelly, you didn't spend everything that you received. So the best way to explain that, and I have the budget in the back that shows 3 previous years. We are self-funded, self-insured for health insurance. And so I budget for maximum exposure, as our consultant tells us to. And we had a really healthy year last year. In 2024, we had healthy employees. We did not spend all that our exposure that we were exposed to. We didn't spend it all on health insurance. And last year, we did not have the opportunities to make the regular budget amendments that we normally would have done. We'd had some turnover in board members, and also there was a period of time where we were not allowed to meet. The board was not allowed to meet. Also, we did have some open positions last year because there was a lot of uncertainty. Was the library's millage going to be passed in March? and they left for jobs that were where things were a little more certain. So that is the big difference between the revenue and the expenditure, why we didn't spend everything that was budgeted, a healthy year, and some employees that left us. So I did include on here the Board of Control members from 2024. You can see we've had quite a few positions turn over more than once, but I'm really grateful for the current board that I have. They've taken a lot of time for onboarding, and that's not an easy thing. And as you can see on the very first page of the binder that I put together for you, you can see our current board members. Under number 1A, the first thing I was asked for was an organizational chart. And all of our positions pretty much are funded by that ad valorem tax, so the money that's passed through to us by the parish. I'm not going to go through all of the charts because it is, it's several pages long. I've got lots of branches. But under myself as director, I have Tanya DiMaggio, the Assistant Director of Support Services, Brent Geiger, who handles public services, Ms. Cuevas, who is our office manager and accountant, and then I have a human resources person who is starting on Monday. These people are directly under me, and then everything kind of splits into the back of the house and the front of the house. So Tanya handles the back of the house. So the programming, the collection development, the maintenance, IT, all of the support services that run the library. If you look on the next page, you can see Brent. He has all of the branches that fall underneath him. So Abita, Slidell, Mandeville, etc. And the other pages just break that down further by branch, which I am not going to go through unless you have questions specifically. The next question I was asked is what benefits package is offered to employees. And so I've listed that for you here. We have vacation days, the sick days, the paid holidays. We do have health insurance with benefit dental and vision. We have a small life insurance policy for full-time employees. And then, of course, we're part of the parochial employees retirement plan. These are only offered to full-time employees. They are not offered, we don't have any benefits for part-time employees. And just to give you an idea, we have about 155 employees. About 100 of them are full-time, the rest are part-time, just to give you an idea of what the breakdown is. The next question I was asked is what allowances or stipends does your organization offer, and include the amount and specify which positions receive these benefits. So we don't offer regular allowances or stipends. So there are no car allowances, there are no phone allowances, there's nothing like that. The only thing that we could find as we were combing through our employee handbook is that when we do allow people to travel, they are able to request per diem for meals, but that has to be approved ahead of time. It's not automatic that that happens. And this was matched to the amounts that the state has in their rules for travel, like eons ago. Like when I looked at it, like ours is $7 for breakfast, $13 for lunch, and $25 for dinner. And I think the state now is something like $30 for breakfast. Like we haven't updated this in a really long time.
The travel guidance for the state is put out every year, and most of the time it changes.
Yeah, and we matched it to that long time ago, and we've just never updated it. So I listed it here that it's due to be updated. It's something that we'll have the board look at. But again, it's not something it's not a regular allowance or stipend. It's just in certain circumstances. But this is the only one I could find.
Let me interrupt you. Mr. Corbett, do you have a question?
It's very, very simple, Kelly. You said it so fast I couldn't write it down. What's your full-time, part-time head count?
So I know I have 155 employees, and I know my full-time equivalent is 126. And I want to say that it's about 100 full-time employees, and the rest are part-time. I'm sure about the 126 full-time equivalent. I just
Thank you.
I don't know
That's
exactly.
close enough. I just wanted to get rough order. Thank you.
Okay. So the next question I was asked was what positions are assigned a take-home vehicle, and they are all in the maintenance department. So there is a take-home vehicle for the head of maintenance, our maintenance journeyman, and the 3 maintenance technicians, and that is because they have their tools on their trucks. And we have, the 12 public locations and the and also the administrative office and technical services, that if something goes wrong at one of those buildings, although the parish does own our buildings, they don't maintain them. We maintain them. So if something goes wrong, they can be called out to fix something, and they have their tools on their trucks. And so they are the only ones that have a take-home vehicle. So the next question I was asked is, what is the purpose of travel expenses in our budget? And we only have 2 lines that cover travel. One of them is our mileage reimbursement line. So that's mileage reimbursement at the federal rate for travel between branches during a workday or travel during the workday, because none of our employees except for that maintenance department have an assigned vehicle, so they're using their own vehicles. And so what we do is we, every year, we look at what the updated federal rate is for mileage reimbursement, and that's what that is. We also have a conventions and seminars line, and this line covers for travel and registration for any conferences, webinars, and online courses for continuing education. So those are the 2 lines that we have. Next, we were asked about funding sources, and so this is under 2A. In addition to parish government funding, what other funding sources does your agency receive? So I just broke down what our funding looks like, and this is from 2024, our most recently audited year. So 95.49% of it is the ad valorem taxes that are passed through to us. About 2% is our state revenue sharing, 0.74%, so not even 1%, is fines and fees, 1.52% of interest, donations 0.18%, and then auction proceeds is about 0.05%. So, and that then reaches 100% of our revenue. So that's all of our revenue that we receive and how it breaks down. The next question I was asked was about active grants, including award amount, expiration date, and general purpose. So we have 2 active grants at the moment. Keep Louisiana Beautiful. The grant provided us 2 trash cans. We did not get money for that. We just received the trash cans themselves. This is currently in the reporting phase. And Keep Slidell Beautiful just granted us $5,410 for the purchase and installation of magnolia trees for the Slidell Branch Reading Garden. We're really excited about that. They just made that award, and so we will be receiving the funds to make the purchase in the next couple of weeks. We have some potential grants that are not active yet. One of them, and I didn't know if this would count or not, but we do have library support organizations. We do have the Friends of the Library. We do have the Library Foundation. They help us with things that it's really difficult to justify spending taxpayer dollars on. So an example is behind Covington right now, we have a musical flower garden. They're big metal flowers that make tones when you hit them with the mallets. And they're gorgeous and they're lovely. We did not spend taxpayer dollars on that. We asked the Library Foundation and the Friends of the Library to fund that, and they did. And that was about $15,000 that they gave us earlier this year. But that's done, so it's not active. But just to give you an idea, we do have sources of money for things that that are really hard to justify that taxpayer expense. We are potentially looking at asking the foundation for the equipment for our Makerspace. Thank you, Tanya. For Makerspace for Madisonville. We're planning Makerspace for Slidell as well, but 3D printers, Glowforge, what are some of the other, because you've been working on that. Yep.
It's equipment for the public, for teens and adults to come in, and it's sewing machines, an engraver, 3D printer, things that are really expensive to have in your home, but that you can use this equipment for creative purposes, and a variety of other things.
So, but that we're going to be asking for next month. So that's something where we had in our strategic plan that Makerspace was a priority, but we're going to rely on our support groups to help us fund that equipment. The next question I was asked was about fund balances for the last 3 years, and that's under tab 3. And so what we did is I listed the fund balances for the last 3 years, and then I broke it down so that you could better understand it. The majority of each year's fund balance is the anticipated tax revenue and state revenue sharing that is collected and transferred the following year. So it's not cash. What is actually cash on hand at the end of the year is listed down there at the bottom of that chart that you see. So our cash on hand on December 31st, 2024 was $6,317,694. The actual fund balance is $19,158,580, but the majority of that is the $13 million that's transferred to us for the next year and is designated for next year's budget. That's how we have money for the next year. But it's not actual cash. So we do not have $19 million in the bank. So any unused money that we have at the end of the year is our savings, and this figure, the total amount, the $6,317,694, that's less than 1/2 of 1 year's worth of operating revenue. And if we had not won our millage election, that would have been the cash on hand that we would have used to run the library on half the amount, plus our capital, which is separate. But we do dedicate that to specific purposes. It is not a slush fund. It is not a pile of money just sitting there. There's the operational reserves that are needed to run the library until we receive our first significant portion of the millage that we usually get in February. I've gotten it as late as April, but regularly for the last couple of years now, we have gotten it at the end of February. Disaster and emergency funds cover insurance deductibles and any repairs that may be needed in the event of a disaster. We have dedications for Causeway, Lacombe, Mandeville, and Slidell furniture projects because we have capital projects for all of those items, and so we have furniture designated, money set aside. We have funds reserved to pay expenses that come due immediately upon the new year, like accrued payroll liabilities and health claims from the end of the year. And then we also, this last May, the board dedicated money for capital contingency because we have a general idea of how much our capital projects are going to cost, Slidell, Lacombe, but we need to ensure that we have contingency money for that. And we are no longer going to be receiving capital money to build up some contingency, because when we ask the voters to renew us, we ask them to renew us at $1 million less, so $3,100,000 less, which wipes out that income that we were having for capital. And if you want to see that broken down on the next page, you can see the spreadsheet that shows it. The next thing I was asked about was cost-saving measures. And so, first of all, we did, when we asked the voters to renew us, we did ask for $1 million less. And yes, that does wipe out the capital money that we will receive, but keep in mind, we will have collected what we needed to complete our capital project. So we're pretty sure that we've come close. It does cut into our operations a little bit because, $3,100,000, we were like this year, I think we put about $2,500,000 for capital. So you can see that it's gonna cut into our operations slightly. And so we're not expecting as much growth as we would normally predict in a year. We're pretty much predicting a standstill budget. So other than asking the voters for less money as one way to save money, the other things that we do is we rely heavily on data and statistics to show the need for services, programs, and employees. We have to make data-driven decisions. So when an employee leaves us, that position is evaluated against the data to see if we need to continue with that position. So as an example, this year we had 2 reference librarians leave us. We looked how many people were coming in and asking reference questions. What did the data tell us about the usage of the reference position at those 2 locations? What did the data tell us about the number of people attending their programs? And so we did not replace those 2 reference librarians, and we were able to, one, find a position where we had the need, and the need was human resources. We did not have a human resources person on staff. And then the other position, we are going to be able to use that money to have someone to manage and supervise our makerspace, which takes a little bit of expertise. So, we do stop to look. What does the data tell us about our programs and our employees? We did install more sophisticated people counting software at the beginning of 2025, and we hope that once we have a full year of data, that the more detailed hourly information will allow us to make good decisions about staffing. And then we also evaluate the collection that we're paying for. We monitor how often books check out, what genres and authors are popular. We want to make sure that we're buying the things that people use. But an example, this year we didn't renew 3 databases as the cost per person per search no longer made sense. So we evaluate all of those things every year. I have also provided a copy of our 2026 budget, which was provided to the Finance Department, but I included here the budget message, which has the narrative of all of the lines that go up and down and why, and if you are really interested in reading it, you can put the narrative and the spreadsheet next to each other and follow it line by line all the way down. I am open for any questions that you might have.
First of all, Kelly, thank you very much. We are going to miss you. I think the library and board is doing a great job. You cut the millage. You won the election. I'm happy to see that the library is being supported. Mr. Phillips.
Let's see here. If we go back to you were talking about the maintenance guys having their own vehicle on that. Can you explain like scenarios where they can't come to work and get their vehicle, like why they would have to have it?
So it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you get a phone call from the fire department in Madisonville that the alarm system is going off and they need to be let into the building. That person drives from their home in Covington down to the Madisonville branch. And, they use their keys to open the door and go inside and realize that the panel's not working right. It's not that the building is on fire, but they need to get to their tools in their truck to help mitigate whatever the situation is. I had time on Christmas Eve where the sprinkler head broke because somebody was using, I don't remember what they were doing at Mandeville, but the sprinkler head broke and they had to deal with a flood on Christmas Eve, basically, of the branch. That was fun. And again, they had their tools on their truck. So these are not, they're just the plain white truck with the toolbox on the back and everything that they need.
Oh, no, I get it. So what you're telling me, each facility doesn't have a maintenance area?
No. So we have 12 library branches. 6 of them are very tiny, like 1,500 square feet.
Like where do they go to work then? Like say there's no emergency, where do they go?
So they start out every day at our technical services location, which is just north of Coop Drive up here in Alamosa Business Park. It's a metal office and warehouse facility. And what they do, the maintenance guys get there in the morning. They check in, there's a ticket system because again, there's 5 of them and there are the 12 branches and then there's admin and technical services. So they're handling those 14. And so there's an electronic ticket system that tells them these are the high priority things or these are the things that maybe don't have as high priority that you've got to take care of today. And they use that ticket system to plan out where they're going and they get in their truck and they go.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned a 3D printer. Tell me about this 3D printer.
So 3D printers,
how much it costs?
Well, the cost, how much did the 3D printer?
I think it's $1,300, I think.
Yeah. So they're not inexpensive. They're not something that you would buy for yourself to have in your home, right? And libraries have long been a place where you could experience new technology and learn about something like that. A 3D printer uses a filament, like a plastic filament that melts, and it kind of writes it, is the best way to describe it, layer by layer until you have whatever it is that you've created on the computer in front of you.
No, I understand that concept.
Yeah.
I was just curious about the cost and keeping it up and all that.
We think that total amount for the equipment for the makerspace for Madisonville is going to be round about $20,000?
The equipment will be about $18,000,
yeah.
and then we're going to ask for an extra $2,000 for consumables. In other libraries, the way the makerspace works is the equipment is free to use, but there are small fees charged for the consumable. So for the 3D printing, usually it's by weight. So we'll set, a certain amount of money per gram, and then whatever they make is weighed, and then that's how much they pay. So things where ink and for the other printer, things like that will be a small fee to help cover the cost, but then the equipment will be there free to use. I've seen at another library, when I was observing, a gentleman came in, some kind of plastic knob, and I don't know what it went to, had broken, and really he didn't want to replace the whole thing, he just needed a new knob. So he found the specifications online and came and printed what he needed to fix his appliance. So people use it for those kinds of things, and they use it for creative things as well.
So for example, I'm a pilot flying an aircraft. The cost of buying the airplane is one thing, but the operational cost of it is another expense. So, for example, this guy builds a plastic knob. Can you give me an idea the cost to the library for him to do that, and how you measure that? Like, for example, is it cost per hour, cost per ounce, whatever?
So there is the initial cost for the machinery itself, and we are going to have the Library Foundation cover that. The consumables, yes, that will be passed on to the person who uses the space. And as Tanya was saying, when you're talking about that filament, it's by gram. And what we're going to do is look at the best practices of the libraries around us that have maker spaces. New Orleans, Jefferson, Parish Libraries, Southeastern has a maker space.
East Baton Rouge.
And East Baton Rouge. So Livingston, I think, does as well. But we're going to be able to look and see what's worked for them, what are the best practices. But you're right, it is the consumables that cost money, and we're not planning on, we're going to have a line in our budget for the consumables, but the money for that is going to come from the people who use it.
And then the maintenance cost too. I mean, the cost for like an aircraft, for example, is maybe 1/3 of what it's going to cost you when you start looking at operational costs and all that. There was another, I heard that you were getting some kind of digital code reader or something like that for books to be checked out.
Are you talking about RFID, radio frequency identification? Okay. So that is listed as a capital project. That's not in our operational budget. That is not actually going to be spent in the upcoming year. We have that on hold. Okay. Because we are not receiving capital funding any longer, right? And we don't have the official estimates back on Slidell, on Lacombe. We do have a really good number on Mandeville, but because we don't have those estimates back yet, and even then, once we get the estimates, I don't think that we would consider doing RFID until those projects had gone out to bid and we knew exactly how much money it was going to cost. Because Slidell, their roof has had issues for a significant amount of time. We want to make sure that when we take the roof off that we have the money to handle it. But what you're talking about, RFID, radio frequency identification, each book gets a tag. There are security gates at each of the large libraries, and it's a more efficient way of checking out materials. So right now, story time is over. Mom comes up to the desk with 20 books and her 3 little ones that she's trying to corral, and the staff member gets her card and scans 20 times, 20 books, right? If you have RFID, then you get mom's card and you take the stack of books in 3 stacks, 1, 2, 3, have a nice day. And maybe you can still have a nice conversation, but it's much more efficient at the desk, which means if it's more efficient and you can get through helping people at the desk faster, you don't always need as many staff members, which eventually is a greater cost savings to in your personnel budget. We had not planned to install RFID and have a bunch of self-checkout and replace all the staff. That was never the intention. The idea was to make us more efficient at the desk so that we could redirect staff to some of the items, the initiatives that we have. And some of our new initiatives this year were our mobile library, where we deliver materials to nursing homes, and our books by mail. If we had already had RFID installed, I would not have had to hire. I would have been able to move people around. So, you know, not doing RFID, having that already in place, impacted our budget this year by about $80,000 because I had to hire staff to do that as opposed to being able to redistribute them. So in the long run, RFID, yes. Is it $1 million project? And is that scary? Yeah, it's a lot of money, but when you would have continual savings year over year in your personnel budget, which makes up the majority of our budget because we are a face-to-face customer service organization, that's why we thought it made sense. But it is not going to be spent next year because we're holding on to it.
Okay, thank you for that. Just one last question that I've received a lot of blowback on is the $700,000 for furniture. Is there any way to cut that at all?
Okay, so in our furniture budget, we have several of those projects. There is Mandeville for $270,000 because we're going to refresh that. There is, we just did Causeway. What am I thinking? Lacombe. So we're going to build a new Lacombe branch. It's going to need furniture. We have money set aside for that. And then Slidell is $700,000. The only one of those furniture projects that is budgeted for 2026 is Mandeville, because Mandeville will go under construction next year, hopefully, if the Parish Council sees fit to approve the amendment in the capital budget at the October meeting. That project will be able to go out to bid, and we are planning on replacing the furniture there that is original, well, it's 1993. So,
it's old.
But back to the $700,000. Mandeville is $270,000 because it is a 10,000 square foot building, and we are not planning on replacing a lot of shelving there because of the way Mandeville works out. They're separate rooms. You don't get the same benefits of sight lines of reducing the height of the shelving. So a lot of what we're doing there is chairs, tables, new circulation desk, new computer furniture. But at Slidell, the furniture there is even older. So by the time we get to doing the furniture at Slidell, the furniture there will be 40 years old. And the shelving is about 90 inches high, and we don't have really good sight lines, you know, for staff to really be able to see into the shelving and around. So some of it is that we're replacing the shelving to make it lower, and steel does cost a significant amount of money. The other thing is that building right now is 22,000 square feet, not 10,000 square feet, but 22,000 square feet. And we are planning on adding around 4,000 square feet to that. Some of that is going to most likely be a children's wing that's separate from the rest of the building. We're going to rearrange the furniture and the functions and have maker space there as well. But that's a lot more furniture. You're talking more than double the furniture, and you're talking about the shelving. Now, we are looking at ways to see if we can cut some of that cost. We are looking at seeing if we can cut the shelving and put new end panels on it. And the jury's out on whether or not that's going to work. We did have a metal fabricator visit us and look at it and see if that was a possibility. But we did talk to our furniture consultant who helps us put our furniture packages out to bid, because we get better pricing when we put it out to bid as opposed to a state contract. And she said that she has cut the shelving at 3 projects that she's done. She's done over 400 libraries across the nation. And sometimes it turns out well and sometimes it doesn't. It really depends on the shelving type itself. And like I said, we had the metal fabricator come look. So we have not heard back from them. Is it going to work? I mean, and once you do it, have you messed with the integrity of the shelves at all? If they fall down, who's legally liable? That's a lot to think about. But we are looking into it because we do recognize that we are trying to be as good stewards of taxpayer money as we can. Is that $700,000 in the 2026 budget? No. Is it in our Is it dedicated? And our savings, yes, because we are committed to ensuring that Slidell has refreshed furniture like all of the other branches that we have done that for.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Ms. O'Brien?
Well, first, I wanted to compliment y'all on the meeting you had in Lacombe. I went out there, so I'm really anxious to see what that looks like, because I think it's going to be very pretty. I had been asked about the 700 grand too, so thank you so much for that explanation. I Google stuff and I look up stuff while I'm sitting here waiting my turn, and I noticed in your report, while on page 10 you showed your beginning of year balance 17 million, the end of year balance 19 million. I noticed on pages 5 and 6 of the report, your total net position on December 31st, 2024, and your net position end of year was 20,061,990. What's the difference between the 19 million end of year fund balance and the 20 million total net position in layman's terms, so those of us who are not in finance and people hearing this understand what's the difference of those two numbers?
So first of all, give me just a second to look up the Louisiana Legislative Auditor's website, because I did not bring a copy of my audit with me today.
Yeah, that came from pages 5 and 6 of your report.
I just need to go find it. I'm so sorry that I did
That's
not have
okay.
that pulled
That's
up.
okay. You probably weren't expecting that. I just happened to look it up earlier.
Annie?
So I can tell you generally from the perspective of the financial statements is that you're required in governmental accounting to present two types of financial statements. One is a fund level statement, which has fund balance, and then you have a government-wide statement, which has net position. The fund level statements are to present cash flow. So everything is on a cash basis of accounting, meaning that you don't have debt and fixed assets. And then on the government-wide statements where you have net position, you have to convert those fund level statements to that to a modified accrual basis of accounting, where you present fixed assets, debt, other liabilities such as pension, retirement, things like that. So there will always be a difference between the two statements. For our purposes, I always look to the fund basis statements because that gives you a more accurate position of the cash flow, and that's unique to governments, is that fund basis of accounting.
Okay, thanks for that explanation.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Ms. O'Brien? Okay. Mr. Kugel?
Thank you. I actually, first off, the 3D printers, I think that's a great idea because I know I'm familiar with all the great things they can do, and a lot of people won't be able to afford one, but they can go use one at the library. And just on what Mr. Phillips said, obviously I hope you guys have some kind of not reimbursement scheme, but some way for them to pay for the consumables. Yes. And then on that, you're going to put the maker spaces. That's the places, the locations that have maker spaces is where the 3D printers will be. The first one, the pilot, is Madisonville, and then you're going to have all the other branches maker spaces, or what's the plan?
No, so we are a little short on space, right? We wouldn't be able to put a maker space at all of our locations. So we're starting with Madisonville because we have a computer teaching lab there, and we teach computer classes, but when we're not teaching a computer class, that room is dark. It's not being used. And so what we did is we took the desktop computers that were in there, and when the 5-year retention cycle on our computers came up for that room, we replaced them with laptops. So we can still have computer classes in that room, but we're going to rearrange the furniture so that we can also have maker space in that room.
Okay.
We're starting with Madisonville because we have the space, but
you have it for Slidell?
for Slidell, we're going to renovate Slidell, right?
Okay.
So we have that money set aside in our capital projects for Slidell, and that includes expansion and rearrangement of functions. And like, it was loud and clear during the community input that they were interested in makerspace. It was also pretty clear in strategic planning that the parish as a whole was interested in makerspace. So we're starting with Madisonville because we've got the space right now. Next would be Slidell. So we'll have it on both sides of the parish.
Okay, good. And then I do actually, the RFID $1 million price tag is I agree with the decision not to proceed at this time. But the last question I had, because this came up last year about the Causeway Mandeville branch, my understanding is it's $15,000 a month to rent that.
Yeah.
And you've, generally, the general view is when you're renting something, you don't want to invest that much stuff because you don't own it, but I understand there's been improvements, which technically you still don't own because you're renting it. And I know last year there was a talk of some long-term plan to where, because I know that it gets about 5 to 7 minutes between the two Mandeville branches, but one of them is being rented. Are we any closer to a plan? I don't know if this is something for Mr. because I know
Well, I can answer. So, and as I mentioned last year when we had this discussion, South Slidell and Causeway kind of were born out of the same situation where there wasn't enough space at the branch, the main branch in the area, and so they expanded. And when they expanded to another location, yes, they were distance of 5 to 7 minutes, but when you're talking about Mandeville 190, it might as well be the moon, and when you're talking about Slidell Gauze, it might as well be the moon. Like, it's just getting across the street and around is difficult in those areas, which is why they expanded so close. We don't rent South Slidell anymore. We purchased it, right? And when the library board looked to expand all those years ago, the only option was renting because we weren't able to use our operational millage for capital purposes. So what we did, though, what we did when the renewal came up for Causeway, and the renewal came up for Causeway like a year and a half before the millage was going to be up for renewal. In order to renew the lease, the way it was written was that we would have that year and a half, and then if the millage renewed, the lease was going to automatically renew for 5 years. And that happened because we did win the millage election. So we are going to be in Causeway for the next 5 years. But the board did make it very clear that ultimately they don't want to continue to rent. And so Mr. Branton is going to be able to speak more to that point, but that was made very clear at the last board meeting that yes, we are in Causeway for the next 5 years, but that ultimately they're going to be looking at plans.
And yeah, just to wrap my part up, if you could just, what the long-term plan, Mr. Branton, for wrapping up the rental?
Okay, we approved and voted in, approved and executed the lease for the next 5 years. And I've had inquiries, but in this time frame, it gives us time as a board to discuss the concepts that have been presented. Like, okay, is there some, because when you talk about acquiring Causeway, is that the best move? Okay, I don't know. I don't know. People have talked to me about is, can we combine these two into one? Well, that's got a lot of variables there. If you're talking, and Causeway is what, 10,000 square feet roughly?
Causeway is about 9, Mandeville is 10.
Okay.
So, they're about 20,000. Slidell has about 22,000 square feet. Mandeville has about 20,000.
And when you look at the area of Mandeville, are we talking down below 190? Are we talking about going up 22 towards Madisonville? There are, and we got all the things in between, because you're talking acres of land that would have to be acquired if you're talking new construction. You're talking a lot of money in construction, and that would have to go back before the voters, because part of the millage that the library used to create the capital fund as part of the ballot measure contained 0.81 mils that the parish government took and said, we're sticking it over here, we're putting it over here. And that money, over the 15 years it ran, is what created the capital project fund that we are using now. As a board, I think I will say this for me. I want to see us look at every possible option. What is most fiscally responsible? How would we generate the funds if we're going into new construction? I don't have answers for that. I have questions. But we're looking at all of that, and at least at this point, we have 5 years in which to come up with a plan. And I've already, told Kelly before I knew of her resignation, let's meet with the stakeholders. Let's start the talking process now, not 4.5 years from now when everybody's panicking. What are we going to do? And so there are just a tremendous number of questions. And if that's the better approach going forward, fine. If it's not, then what is the best approach, and can we pursue that? That's, as a board, what I think we wish to do.
Okay, thank you. We need to wrap this up in about 10 minutes. Mr. Strickland.
Yes. I just want to thank you, Kelly, for your services, that you have been a big asset to St. Tammany Parish. I learned a lot about the library that I wasn't expecting as a councilman, but I want to just thank you for your services, and I think you will be an asset to the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Corbett.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions and a couple comments. Kelly, what are the 4 top libraries in St. Tammany Parish in terms of attendance or volume? I didn't see it in here directly. I think from memory I know what it is.
I have the answer right in front of me. I brought this with me. I guess the question is what are you looking for? If you're looking for number of books checked out or door count, I guess I'll go with door count. It would be Slidell, number 1, Covington, Mandeville, and South Slidell, and then Causeway.
Okay, so the top 5, Causeway fits in the top 5.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make the point of where it sits relative to the others. I recognize the
Yeah, both South Slidell and Causeway do 11% of our business, like it's statistically, right there.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, I did want to make a comment. We've talked about the furniture repeatedly. My understanding is you guys have redone the furniture in essentially every location except for Mandeville and Slidell, because it's going to get
Mandeville.
Just let me finish the whole question. From attending many meetings that you guys have done that, my point is that you have a database of what it takes to retrofit a library with equipment over time, and that you're using that data, is obvious from your presentation, that I would assume you're going to use that data to help format what you need for the Slidell and for the Mandeville locations. So I guess my point is the $700,000 is not drawn out of the air. It's got a bunch of factual basis, definition information behind it. In addition, I think we have to all understand, and I'll make it for the public, that industrial furniture is not furniture that you get at Rooms to Go. Yeah, the Slidell furniture has lasted for 40 years. It needs replacement, I absolutely agree, but the furniture that you buy at Rooms to Go does not last 40 years, and therefore it is fundamentally significantly more expensive to trade off personal use versus industrial costs. And so I just want to reinforce those couple messages. To wrap up, I applaud you guys on your budget. It's once again, you've done it just as well as you've done it last year, the 2 years that I've been involved in the council. Your use of data to help inform decisions is impressive. It's a model that should be practiced and used more across all of our parish on both the governmental side as well as it's typically done in the private sector side. So you've really taken a lot of private sector principles and applied them to your operation, and you and your team are to be applauded for that execution. That is very, very impressive. On the leadership side, just want to thank you for you and the team you put together, for the leadership you provided over the last several years. It really is put us in a position, we're on solid footing. Chuck, as the new chairman, puts us on solid footing, going to help with the transition. But we're going to lose a real history when you move on. But I personally wish you all the best in what you go do for our state library system, and hope to see similar improvements in the state library system as a result of your hand that we've seen in our library. So thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Okay, quickly. I don't have any questions, as I find the report, the proposed 26 budget report, very concise and comprehensive. Ms. LaRocca, I want to just personally thank you for a job well done as the director of our St. Tammany Parish Library System. I wish you the best in your future endeavors. Thank you.
Mr. Bender.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Kelly, first, your presentation was, if I was a teacher, I'd give you an A+.
Thank you.
I mean, you just had your act together today as usual. And your answers to questions, quick, accurate. We appreciate the library giving back $1 million, which is about $3.4 million to the public. And as you know, you and I have worked fairly closely together for the last 6 years in particular. Pulling off the rental deal at the building for the Slidell Library with the first option to purchase, and we got a good price on that. So I want to thank you for everything you've done for St. Tammany Parish Library. And I just have one question, and that is, what do we have to do as a council to get you to contact Baton Rouge and let them know that you've had a change of heart?
No, I'm looking forward to a new phase in my career. So it's going to be good. It's going to be good for my family and for me. And I'm going to miss all of the people that I've worked with for the last 20 years. So this was my 20th year of service to St. Tammany Parish Library. But it has been my honor to be library director for the last 5 years. And I have amazing staff and a great team. And I am sad to leave them. But I'm looking forward to a new phase. So.
No, well, it's a nice promotion for you, and we'll miss you. And thanks for everything you've done for St. Tammany Parish.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kelly. We are going to miss you. You have a wonderful staff, and thank you for heading our Board of Control, Mr. Brent, and I hope to see more. Kelly, I always am amazed at your budget book. It is wonderful. So thank you very much. We are in recess.
Okay, and Ms. Tanner, as president of the board, all I want to say is we're going to do our best to find the best person we can to lead us forward. Hopefully the process starts Monday night.
Thank you. Okay. You have 35 minutes.